2020 meeting of the Southampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held live and also via video conferencing in accordance with the Town Board's enactment of Local Law Number 14 of 2022, adopted on May 24th, 2022. Our next meeting and those following will be held in person here at Town Hall and will also continue to allow for remote participation, so we ask you to continually check the town's website for updates and any new information. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website. With that, I'd ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, undivided, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you who are here with us tonight in person, in case of an emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and out through the main entrance. Please do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in the hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall. We will be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public here with us live and also standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. CTV will mute the speakers on Zoom until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you are having difficulties accessing the hearings, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Please silence your cell phones and refrain from speaking to one another in the boardroom as it interferes with our recording equipment. Tonight we have board members John Leonard and Keith Tuttle who will be absent, and Helen Burgess will be participating remotely. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Before handing in any submissions to the board tonight, please make sure that the documents identify the ZBA application name and tax map number. The application name should also be written on your certified receipts. Unless otherwise stated at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until a date to be announced after the hearing. Those comments can be addressed to the members of the board and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall to the board secretary, Candace Cowell. With that, I'd ask that, for a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. Next, I would ask that we go on to adjournments.
Okay. Case number 9, application of 1240 Ocean Avenue, Ocean, LLC. The Fraden Family Trust is applicant. This application will be adjourned until March 2nd.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I think we're going to the decision calendar next. The decision for Dilip Patel and Shafiq Dillon will be adjourned. I move to be adjourned till March 16th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, I make a motion to reopen the application of Tyrone Turchian to accept written submissions.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Reopened.
And I make a motion to close with a decision to be rendered later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I make a motion to reopen the application of Production Holdings, LLC, and Tyrone Turchian to accept written submissions.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Reopened.
And I make a motion to close with a decision to be rendered later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I make a motion to reopen the application of Tomas Wojciechowski and Iwana Wojciechowski to accept written submissions.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio. Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, reopened.
I make a motion to close with a decision to be rendered later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I make a motion to reopen the application of Ivan Paskov to accept written submissions.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, reopened.
I make a motion to close with a decision to be rendered later on this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
The following decisions will be adjourned to March 2nd. Production Holding LLC, Bobo and Helen Krug Vanita, Richard and Judith Rothenberg, Grace Amas Clark, Lee Selnick, Margaret Schoenholtz, and Gerald, Petra Forte, and William Siegel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, then we're going back to the agenda. First application is the Brock Riley Living Trust. This is 8 Hampton Place, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-189-1-13. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, Section 330-84D, height pyramid, for a total pyramid encroachment in the amount of 903.4 cubic feet as follows. Sub-I, 38 cubic feet proposed on the east side for a proposed overhang addition to the existing sunroom and to allow the roof of said sunroom to be raised. 2 sub-I, 24.4 cubic feet proposed on the north side, 22 cubic feet for the proposed expansion of the existing garage with deck above, where 1.9 cubic feet currently exists. 2.4 cubic feet where 0.55 cubic feet currently exists to allow the roof of the existing dwelling to be raised. 3 sub-I, 841 cubic feet proposed on the south side where 636 cubic feet currently exists to allow the roof of the existing dwelling to be raised. 2, Section 330-115C, continuance, for a principal front yard setback of 11.6 feet where 17.8 feet exists for a proposed covered deck. 3, Section 330-11 Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, sub-I. 1, for a total lot coverage of 32.1% where 20% is allowed, and 2 sub-I, for a principal total side yard setback of 30.5 feet where 35 feet is required. The proposed expansion is required for the proposed expansion of the existing garage with deck above. And 4, Section 330-83C yards, to allow the proposed roof overhang to encroach more than 18 inches into the required yard on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening.
Adam?
Now state your name and address for the record, please.
Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning, 225 Montauk Highway, Mauritius.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can tell us about the application.
Okay, so I'm passing out some
Okay.
site photos.
You have the originals, Adam.
You have the originals?
You have them with the posting.
Okay.
And an email from one of the neighbors.
Okay.
So the subject property is zoned R15, and it's non-conforming to the zoning district at only 6,315 square feet. The proposed project is comprised of an addition to an existing attached garage to provide additional storage space and an entry to a reconfigured foyer into the residence that is proposed within the footprint of an existing entry deck. A new covered porch is proposed forward of the new foyer addition and the remainder of the southwest portion of the existing residence. A new elevator shaft is proposed on the south side of the dwelling to provide better mobility for the residents. Additionally, the existing sunroom, roof line, and floor on the east side of the residence are proposed to be elevated to the same level as the remainder of the first floor. The existing second floor decking, currently located over the existing garage, is proposed to be elevated to the existing finished floor of the second floor, with some additional minor second floor roof changes proposed. Many of these elevation changes are proposed to accommodate the owners for mobility throughout the house for compliance with American Disabilities Act or ADA compliance. The property contains a pre-existing CO from March 27th of 1991 for a one-story, single-family residence with a screened porch and attached garage with deck on top and an attached shed. Multiple variances were granted to the property over the years. One was in 1961 that added a triangle of width to the lot on the north side of the property. In 1963, a variance allowed for an 8-foot setback and a side yard for the existing garage. 1991 variance granted a front yard setback of 18.2 feet from Hampton Place for the existing structure with total lot coverage allowed at 27.2% for the property. The proposed project requires a variance for the proposed front porch addition from 331.15C from the principal front yard setback of 11.6 feet, where 17.8 feet currently exists, which is a variance of 6.2 feet. The proposed additions to the porch and garage foyer increase the total lot coverage from the prior ZBA approval of 27.2% to 32.1%, which is a variance from 330-11. The proposed roof elevation changes require pyramid variances from 330-84D with new pyramid encroachments as follows: 205 cubic feet for the elevator shaft and an 18-inch roof overhang on the south side of the dwelling, 38 cubic feet for the elevation of the roof and floor for the screened porch on the east side of the property as part of that ADA renovation, and 1.85 cubic feet and 20.1 cubic feet for the raising of that second floor roof and the garage deck to meet that second floor elevation, also for the ADA compliance for the owners. So in total, with the pre-existing pyramid encroachments, it's the 903.4 cubic feet of pyramid. Lastly, there's a roof overhang on the porch that when they raise the roof, they're going to extend it to 24 inches from the 18 that it currently is. So that requires 330-83C for that extension. We've been working with Marjorie on the changes for the pyramid that she requested. And one of the other items that she mentions in her notes, that I know you're going to mention, is there's a deck on the north side of the dwelling that's on the first floor that's non-conforming. The owners would like to cut that deck back to make it more conforming to zoning. There is a sliding door coming out of that one-story portion of the residence that they really just need a form of egress to, so that deck will be cut back, and we will either note on the survey that the deck will be made conforming, or we'll note specifically what the changes to the deck will be. They need to figure that out. But
Where
March,
is that, Daphne?
it's the wood deck, 16 inches that's shown.
Showing what? What's the setback? Like, what am I looking?
Right now, it's at 6 feet off of that angle on the side
Yes.
yard.
Yep.
Yep.
So as
you're gonna
Marge
cut-
said,
you're
that
gonna
as
cut out the
long as
deck.
it's behind the house, meeting at least a 9-foot setback, that
Yeah.
it's compliant.
Okay.
Okay. So 3 feet will be taken off the deck.
At minimum, yeah,
Okay.
probably more.
Okay.
So we are also aware that Marjorie is looking for revised survey and plans to show that roof overhang
Mhm.
on the porch, so we will provide that. There was one variance I noted that in the comments that she wrote about the total side yards, principal total side yards of 30.5, where 35 is required for the expansion of the garage with the deck above. Technically, the principal total side yards are 9 feet on the north and 14.3 feet on the south, or 23.3 for the structure as currently,
Mhm.
and that's not changing. So this is actually, 30.3 is bigger than that number, so I
Mhm.
don't think that we need that variance.
Okay, but it was included in what was requested?
Well, she added that. I
Okay.
don't know why that's there. I don't know. we never talked about that one.
Okay, okay.
So, in theory, that is really a bigger number than what is previously approved by this board for that, excuse me, 9-foot setback for the garage. I did give you an email from the owner that is directly behind them, Keith Rosner, who received the certified mailing and called me to say he had no issue, so I asked him to just email me to say that he had no issue for your record, and that's basically what that email is that I provided. Otherwise, I haven't heard from anyone else.
Okay,
I believe the owner might be on Zoom.
okay. All right. So here's what, from my perspective, what we have. We have a very small lot with a house where basically anything they want to do, anything at all they want to do is going to require variance relief. So the question is, in my view, whether this is considered by the board to be modest relief or in some way considered not to be modest relief. I think that's basically what it is. I mean, the lot coverage already was, you said, in the range of 27% or so.
Yeah.
So it's going up. Setbacks are going up. But on the other hand, these are improvements to the property that benefit the property owner. The ADA compliance, I guess, is that because there's a particular need within the family
Yes.
at this point? Okay. All right. And the only alternative they would have is to try to, well, well, I don't think they don't have any alternatives in terms of doing this without variance relief. Either not requesting the relief at all, or trying to somehow, like, for example, to take the proposed elevator and put it into part of what the footprint is of what currently exists, rather than asking for additional relief. So, in my view, when you're talking about a parcel with a lot size of 15 square feet, you got some challenges under any set of circumstances. This is R15 zoning, so the zoning doesn't fit. Even if this were a 10,000 square foot lot or a 12,000 square foot lot, they would have some problems with living up to the current setbacks. But a 6,315 square foot lot, they're especially going to have those difficulties. Plus, this was a property that was built, a long time ago. So, in any case, those are my perspectives about it, and the question is whether members of the board are concerned about the relief that's being requested.
To be perfectly honest, it's a little hard to follow exactly what you're asking. I mean, 18 inches
Yeah,
here
so-
and so.
yes.
I mean, but, so the total amount of pyramid relief you're requesting is 903.4 cubic feet, is that correct?
No, well, technically, a lot of that is pre-existing.
How much is pre-existing?
It's, I believe, 600 and change is pre-existing. It's really only it's like less than 300 cubic feet that is new. And it's mostly roof adjustments it's really not for new additions per se. It's just adjustments of the roof to adjust floor heights and ceiling heights so that everything on each level is level.
Oh, okay, so right now there's like a discrepancy between
Yeah.
levels on the floor.
Yes.
Steps up, step down.
Yeah,
All right, so that's part of the whole, ADA thing, is to have one level, not to have
Yes.
steps and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with the pyramid relief. What is the decking? I mean, I'm a little confused on that.
I think it's on this page
the
here.
deck that we're talking about that we need to make compliant,
Is it this deck here?
it's photo number 4, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
4, okay.
Which I guess will be cut back.
And so that's gonna be cut back to accommodate setback requirements, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
so that deck was built without a permit, so we will need to accommodate the building department to get a permit for that. But we wanted to confirm with Marjorie that in order to do that, we would make it conforming to zoning and not need
A
further
variance.
variances.
Okay, good. And then what's this upper level on photo 3?
So that's an existing deck, and if you can kind of see to the right of the vegetation that's growing there, there's
Yeah.
a set of stairs that go from the deck up to that sliding door.
I
So
see.
that deck will be elevated.
Oh, okay, so again, to
Level,
eliminate
yes,
different
stairs.
levels.
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, that makes sense.
So because that deck is being elevated, that requires, I think it's 20 cubic feet of pyramid.
Okay, okay. What do you need to do in terms of the survey, in terms of revisions to the survey now? So I just want to get clear.
I believe all that
You've got
Marjorie
to-
was looking for is the change to the deck.
Okay.
Or a note that we would be making it conforming.
Okay.
And then when they change this roof line, this is an 18-inch overhang right now off the back of the porch. It's going to be a 24-inch.
And that's going to be noted on the.
So we would
Okay.
show that, I
On the
guess,
survey.
you know, how they do like a dotted line.
I guess, yeah.
But
Okay.
she was asking for that.
All right, well, that makes sense. Those are my
Was there a
questions.
prior variance for the 600 and something pyramid?
No, that was never noted.
Never.
So she notes that, I believe, in her report, that that was probably something that should have been done in, I think it was 1991, when they did that 27.2%.
And then confirm with Marge about what you were saying with the total side yard as well. That would reduce a variance if that's true.
Oh,
Okay.
right, right, that's right.
So you also mentioned that the existing deck, the one that is gonna be cut back, that was built without permits?
Yes.
Okay. Do we know who built it, what the circumstances were about it being built?
I think that was built like in the 90s, and it may have been prior to my people
Owning it? Okay. All right, because, just want to ask, because if we have information about how that occurred, we would want to know about that. The deed that was submitted with the application is dated 2013, although it's a deed, no, it's a deed to new owners. Yeah, who are the current owners as trustees of the trust. Yeah. So I'm presuming that they wouldn't have any information as to how that deck went up, being that it was
Did they own it
put up.
prior and then put it into trust?
No, it looks like it was going directly into, it was an estate, the estate of Barbara Anderson, going to Brock and Riley as trustees of the Brock Riley Trust. So.
If it was an estate, it's
appear to be.
unlikely you're going to get the information on that.
Well, it's a trust, but prior to that, it was
Was
an
an
estate.
estate
And it
when
could
it
be, and it
happened.
could be that the people who were the owners of the property may have been alive in 1991 and they passed away in that,
Right,
in
right.
that
The estate
time
was selling
period.
it, yeah.
Right,
Was when the deck went up, so. But in any case,
But
we
they're
don't.
going to make it conforming.
They're gonna make it conforming, and they're trying to do the
And-
right thing here.
Right,
But, you know, we try, you know, I try whenever possible, when we have as-bills, to find out how they went up without permits, because too many things go up without permits, so. Okay, but here, there's nothing to look into. Okay.
Mike?
For, you know,
Yes.
that, it always raises a red flag for me when we're seeing variances on top of variances. And that just doesn't feel right to me. So, I mean, while it appears that we're looking at 11.6 from 17.8, what was the original, what was 17.8 granted from? And then going to 32% lot coverage is, you know, that's 50% more than what's zoned for that. And I mean, I'm not saying that that zoning is perfect for people who live in this area, because it looks like most people have 10-pound houses on 5-pound lots here. It's just the way this area has developed. So I'm just not happy about it. But that, on the other hand, the lot lines stop, you know, easily 20 feet from the road, right? So they feel, looks like they're somewhat restricted by where the technical lot lines are, yet their property extends all the way out to Hampton Place, and they're all enjoying that. So, you know, I don't know how I feel about it at this point. I'm not happy about it.
I will say that I did look at the two properties, the property immediately adjacent to the north and the one across the street from that. Both have surveys showing lot coverage of 30.8%. One of them received a variance for that. The other one received a variance for a setback, but their survey shows a lot coverage of 30.8%.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
So it's common to have a 30+%
From the
lot
aerial,
On
it
the
looks
small
like
lots.
50%, but, I guess the
When you're dealing with a
calculations.
lot this small, you're gonna have real problems.
Yeah.
It's just.
I'm
don't-
okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Well,
I'm
this
sorry.
is a modification to accommodate some disability
Yeah.
issues, so.
Oh, I
have
understand.
I have less concern
Correct. That's
I
why.
understand.
as a result of that.
Yeah. And I also think that, well, I'm, looking at the concern about variances on top of variances, I do think when it's a different owner, number one, number two, it spans decades. It isn't like there was another variance last year. I think that's a
It's
consideration
not a
as well.
spec house going up.
No,
Well, one variance actually made the lot bigger, because the lot was smaller.
right,
Yeah,
Oh,
see
right.
that,
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, so, okay. Any other questions, members of the board? Katie, Anthony?
Nope.
Okay. Is there any,
Were the owners on, you said?
I think they might just be watching, I'm not sure if they're actually going to speak.
okay. All right, I wanted to ask if there's anyone from the public who's here in the room this evening who would like to be heard in connection with the application of the Brock Riley Living Trust. This is for property located at 8 Hampton Place in Hampton Bays. Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 8 Hampton Place in Hampton Bays? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
Yeah, I have some.
Okay.
It's always the anticipation.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Nope. Good evening.
You can speak.
You're on mute. You need to turn your volume on. We still can't hear you. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you
There
now.
you go. Beautiful.
Okay, so I just have to swear you in before you give us your comments, unless you're an attorney. You can state your name and address, please.
I'm William Riley. The address is 8 Hampton Place, Hampton Bays.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And I understand you're the applicant.
Yes,
Okay,
along with my wife.
okay.
Just a couple of little things in terms of, you were exactly right. This is a very we have a community of 29 homes that own our roads and meet twice a year to discuss any issues, pay our insurance, take care of everything we need to take care of. It's a very friendly community. And I have, in fact, I'm 76 years old. My visits to this area, to this particular community started when my mother was pregnant with me. So I have a very long relationship, and we have a number of relatives. I have a number of relatives. In fact, my niece owns the house towards the beach. I guess that's to the north. Several of us own the house across the street, directly opposite this house. I've got cousins on the diagonal at 2 o'clock and at 10 o'clock. This is kind of our place. All of these lots, the lots were laid out in the 1920s. My grandmother built the house across the street in 1953. My brother and I owned that until he passed away. Now I own it in partnership with my niece. We call that the family house, and it's pretty much full of family who don't have a house there all the time. But this little community was built as cottages, beach cottages. And as a result, the whole community has been had terrible problems trying to make things look nicer. The purpose of this renovation is the ADA issue. The previous owner, and I was a child, and I remember that house being built, frankly, right across the street from my grandmother's. and I knew the original owners, Edith Blythe and her husband Jack. Her daughter was the woman and her husband that we bought the house from in 2013. After we bought it from the family after they passed away. Barbara and senior woman, I'm going to forget his name now. He's been passed away a long time. But Barbara and her husband remodeled this house as their dream house in their 70s. And then they had to move downstairs into the playroom because they couldn't get up the stairs. And they spent the last 3 years of their life living on a one-story house with a gorgeous master bedroom and bath upstairs. We didn't want to have that fate. That's why there's I think it's a 12 or 15-inch bump out on one side to allow for an elevator shaft for a two-person, one-floor elevator. The floors on the first level, because of the history of the house, are on 3 separate levels. It's nuts. And the only reason there's any discussion at all about the overhang in the back is the screen porch in the back that we need to elevate, needs to be elevated about 2 feet, and just on practical basis, we decided not to bother trying to elevate something. We weren't sure about the construction. We said, let's just demolish it and build the same thing, the same size, just make it higher. Well, along the way, we said, gee, that looks goofy now because it's the same height as the addition behind it, which is, we call that, it's called bedroom 2 on the plans, but we call it the TV room, which is the way it's used. And it just looks silly. So we said, well, I just asked the architects because I'm interested in aesthetics. I said, well, let's just match the roof lines. Well, that means extending the roof lines. That's trivial. The living area is not changing 1 square inch. It's just the roof line being changed to match it. We just heard an awful long description and discussion about that, which, if you don't want to do it, it's not important. In terms of the square footage additions, since we're doing, this is going to be $500,000 worth of work. The house, now that we've been in it almost 10 years, and we're not even there in the winter. We're so far summer people, although we intend to move out there when we're fully retired. The front door is a disaster, and it basically faces a wind tunnel coming in from Peconic Bay, and you can hardly get the door open. And anytime there's rain or strong wind, there's absolutely no overhang above it. So I was insistent upon a porch, but also, hey, why not just square off the entry? Because it's got a diagonal entry, which doesn't fit very well in the neighborhood anyway. And we're just squaring it off. I think the net addition of space is something like 18 square feet of interior living space. That's the total of this plan. Once we did that, we said, oh, well, the garage, the garage is currently in line with that vertical line of the porch. We ought to just move it, basically continue the garage forward 5 feet. It's dead driveway space anyway. Not a big deal to me. And that would be, I guess, 5 by 60 square feet. But the total absolute usable increase in square feet on this project is less than 100 square feet.
Okay, I have a question for you.
That's the background.
I have a question for you. Since you were familiar with the property since you were born, do you have any information as to how the deck went up without a permit?
I'm quite certain the deck was put on in 1991 when they did the remodel, and at that time, I did some remodeling out there myself in the late 80s. Building inspectors did not care about decks, period. They just did not care. So when they were doing the construction and somebody said, hey, why don't we just take this deck out another 10 feet, it's in the backyard, nobody cares. in truth, nobody cares. It was done. You know, I wouldn't get all bent out of shape about that. It's a nit.
Well, you know,
We care.
you may see it that way, but we don't, okay? We don't.
I understand that.
When structures go out without permits, we ask how it happened, okay? And I appreciate that. Yep,
It was done long before we bought the property, and
okay.
frankly, I had no idea, and I just assumed that it was done with a permit. Why wouldn't you do it with a permit at that time? It's not, it doesn't exceed the width of the garage, it's just, it seems to me was what you think of as a rectangular
Okay.
building.
Okay, well, I was just asking the question as to whether you had any knowledge, okay?
No.
All right, but otherwise, greatly appreciate your comments. And anything else you want to add?
No, that's good.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application?
I see no hands.
No hands, okay. If not, so the only thing we need, I guess, is the revised survey. How much time do you think you're going to need for that?
Do a written sub? No?
Yeah, it'll be written so.
Probably a couple weeks.
A couple weeks, okay. All right, so I'm going to move that we close the application this evening, except for written subs. The deadline for written subs is going to be, I believe the date is March 3rd. And we'll have a decision ready at our March 16th?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
March 16th meeting. Daphne, if you need extra time on the survey, just let Candace know, and we'll adjourn. But in any case, that's my motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Chair votes aye. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Daph.
You too.
Okay, we're up to application number 2. Town of Southampton Housing Authority, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-139-2-36. Property is at 100 Vale Avenue, Riverside. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for proposed single-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot. 1, Section 330-115D. 2, continuance for a principal rear yard setback of 28 feet where 39 feet is permitted. And 2, Section 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for a total lot coverage of 23.7%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
Good evening. So to swear you in, you can state your name and address.
Curtis Highsmith, 2 Ridge Road, Southampton, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you, Curtis. You can tell us about the application.
Thank you. Application, just a little background. This is lot 5 of 6 lots that were given to us by Suffolk County for purposes of affordable housing. It's part of the 72H exchange program. So this property itself was given to the Housing Authority in 2014, I believe. And during that time, we were expecting an overlay to happen over in Riverside. And unfortunately, when that didn't happen, we were pressed for time, had to get this property developed. So we were partnered with Habitat for Humanity to finalize all 6 lots. We've completed 2 lots. We're in construction with a 3rd lot. And we just did a wall raise for the 4th one on Tuesday. So on this one, 100 Vale Avenue, I believe the first challenge we had to do with single and separate. We did a report with judicial title. We determined that report determined that there was no continuous property where the owner of the property involved ever since October 1957. The property has its own tax map number. It has its own singular deed, no other deed. It shares no other person. The property receives its own singular tax bill. There's been no attempts on this parcel to be merged. There are no outstanding mortgages. We've done mortgage searches. There's no outstanding mortgages on this property. So to the best of our knowledge, to the best of the research we have, the property remains single and separate.
Okay, and I don't know that it wasn't advertised for relief for single and separate, but I appreciate your giving us
Okay.
the information.
It was.
It was?
I believe.
Let's see.
No, you
Nope.
needed to submit the
Yeah.
search to get the
Gotcha.
reduced
Got single and
setback.
separate status, yeah, so it wasn't in the relief requested, but nevertheless, it's good for us to have the information on the record, and we have the search results, which I did review as well.
Thank you.
So, okay.
This parcel, it complies with front and rear yard setback as well as pyramid. We were asking for relief for the Rear yard, the required setback is 20%. I'm sorry, lot coverage first. Lot coverage, 20% is required, and we're proposing 23.7. It's a relief of a modest 3.7%. We're also requesting a rear yard setback where the requirement is, I believe, 37.5, or is it 39?
39.
39. And we're requesting 28. Understand that this is R15. You said at the last hearing, very tough to build anything under that zoning. So anything built is going to definitely need some relief. The house that we built, very conforming to the community in style and design and features, as well as size and mass. So we do not believe that the request that's being asked is out of keeping, nor is it, we believe that it is extremely modest.
Okay. And certainly, affordable housing is a huge need in the town of Southampton, and that's something that, so your work is very important in terms of providing affordable housing for people in our community. In my view, the relief is relatively modest. My only other question is whether you've heard from any of the neighbors.
Not on this part.
Okay.
Not on
Yes,
this.
yes, we'll deal with the next
We'll
one
deal with the
shortly.
next one.
Okay.
We've heard nothing but positive things, so far in the process up until.
And this is 100, Bill?
This
that
is
we're
100.
talking
This is
about?
100, yeah.
Okay, because it looks like in the application, it doesn't conform with what the advertised was. I mean, it says, principal rear yard setback from 37.5 to 28 instead of 39, and coverage of 25.35%. Am I reading it wrong, or?
Yeah, you're reading it wrong.
I am, the second page?
Maybe you're reading the,
I'm reading this page.
oh, you're reading the application.
The application,
Yeah,
and it could
alright.
have evolved, that they submitted the
Okay,
application,
okay.
the
Just
actual
wanna
numbers may
check
have
that we're
changed.
talking about the same place, and,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
We're going from 20% to 23%.
20%, 23.7%. And for lot coverage,
11
in that
feet,
range,
11
it's,
feet.
it's not unusual for us to grant
Yeah.
that percentage of
R15.
lot coverage.
About 15.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And as
These
far
are
as,
rental or owned?
These are for, this will be part of the Habitat for Humanity first-time homebuyer program.
Okay, good.
No candidates have been selected for this particular parcel as of yet. We do have an open application. I am promoting. We do have an open application right now, open process, and that process goes on until the 28th.
Is it a lottery or is it just?
Habitat has their own selection process. It's a needs-based program. So they do the qualifications, they do the selection process, and then they ensure that the individual does a certain amount of sweat equity to help with the down payment assistance.
Well, nice.
okay,
We need it, like Adam said.
yes,
Yeah.
very important need in the town of
Did you
Southampton.
revise the survey as per Marge's notes?
Yes,
So we have that?
you should have.
Okay.
Yeah, lot coverage should remove the ramps from the calculation and revise to correct the year to 2023 and
Yes.
show the clearance.
Yes, definitely.
That's what she was looking for. Okay. All right, any other questions? Is there anyone from the public who's in the room this evening who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Southampton Housing Authority for property located at 100 Vale Avenue in Riverside? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 100 Vale Avenue in Riverside? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
Okay. If not, Bob, it's yours.
It's okay, I move to close, hold it open for written submissions till 3/3 with decision on 3/16.
Second,
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, thank you so much. I know we have another one.
He's got another one, right?
Okay.
Number 50,
We do.
93.
Number 3, Town of Southampton Housing Authority, 93 Vale Avenue, Riverside, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-139-2-56. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed single-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot. 1, Section 330-115D2, continuance for a principal rear yard setback of 28 feet where 37.5 feet is permitted. And 2, Section 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a total lot coverage of 24.2% where a maximum of 20% is permitted, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening, to state your name and address for the record.
Curtis Highsmith, 2 Ridge Road, Southampton, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, if you can tell us about this application.
Well, this is lot 6 of the 72 exchanged affordable housing lots. This lot is located at 93 Vale Avenue. In this situation, we're required to do a single and separate. We did do a report through judicial title to determine no continuous property owned by any persons of this lot since common name since October of 1957. This property has its own tax map number, it has its own individualized deed. It shares no other person on the property. The property receives its own singular tax bill. There's been no attempts to merge the lot. There's no outstanding mortgages, as well as the searches has deemed this, as far as I'm concerned, single and separate. I recently received, and that would be today, what seems to be not a complaint, but a petition from the neighbor from the south for clarification as well as disclosure. I do know the neighbor. I knew the previous neighbor, and I know the heir to the house itself for some time. Did go to the neighbor, and we did have conversation as to they were occupying or using the property, I believe, as parking. I did go and did research to see if it was something that we could do to either have the property sold to the property owner, to the neighboring property owner. Unfortunately, because this property has been in municipal ownership since 1993, it was owned by the county. It went from the county to the town of Southampton in 2002, and from 2002 to 2013-14, it went to the housing authority from then to present. Since it's municipally owned, you can't just absorb property from a municipality or from a governing body. Secondly, when the county sells or transfers these properties to a municipality, it puts a layer of covenant restrictions on the parcel, that the property can only be used in affordable housing, transitions for either for sale or for rent. It can't be used in any means or any other source. There's been no action taken by any neighbor since this date today. It would have had to have been before 1993 when Suffolk County had the property. I'm not an attorney. I don't know what the legal right would be for the individual. Being advised by our counsel that that's the policy and guidelines and law.
Okay, but we have a neighbor who has commenced a legal proceeding. So, and I don't know that necessarily stops us from acting as a board. That we'll rely upon our counsel
Well,
on that.
I wasn't served a notice personally, so
Okay.
there hasn't been a notice of action sent to me.
Mhm.
This is the first time receiving a third party from this board.
Yeah,
So,
and for what it's worth, what we have is we have a complaint, summons a complaint with no index number on it.
correct. It's not been
So in
filed.
order to commence a proceeding, they have to purchase an index number. I see no index numbers, but again, they may have done it and not put it on the document. They may be serving it tomorrow. I have no idea. But what I can say is if there is an issue that relates to the neighbor claiming some kind of an ownership interest in this property, that is really between the housing authority and the neighbor.
Yes.
And I don't know that it precludes us from acting, but I guess we will see.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, unless we're served with an injunction or order to stop,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
I mean,
okay, okay. And they may be waiting to speak to us as well, but
Sure.
we'll find out. Okay, all right, so other than that, if you can tell us about the rest of the nature of the application, which appears similar to the last.
That's similar. Side yard, front yard, and pyramid all comply. This particular application is looking for lot coverage.
Thank you.
God bless you, bud.
Thank you.
Lot coverage is, I think is allowable is 20%. We're asking for 25%. It's a relief of 5.8%, modest relief of the lot coverage. And rear yard setback, which I think this probably is the question. I think the allowable is 39 feet, but using the 3/10, 4/10 rule, we were able to calculate 35.5.
30,
37, sorry, 37.5,
But
Yeah.
just go back to the total lot coverage, you said 25.9.
20%, and we're requesting 25.5.
All right, so you must have updated the survey since then.
Yeah,
We
because it's been
advertised it
changed.
at
Yes.
24.2.
So
Yes,
it's
24.
25.9.
25.9 is what it now is.
You were seeking 28 feet as opposed to 37 and a half, correct?
Yeah, 28 feet as opposed to 37 and a half, that's how it was advertised. But I had a question about the lot coverage relief because it was different in the survey. So we would need a survey if it hasn't been submitted already. Maybe it's in our submittals that indicates the percentage being 25.9 rather than 24.2, or I had 23.3 in another survey as well.
Understood.
All right. And other than that, this is again going into is it the same, it's pretty much the same program?
Absolutely, this is under, we partnered, the Town of Southampton Housing Authority, partnered with Habitat for Humanity. This would be a property or a lot that will be sold to family or persons. It is an open application process, and that process will go on until the 28th. We are presently collecting applications for this lot as well.
Okay, all right. And just going back to the single and separate, similar to the last lot, you submitted a single and separate search to this board.
Yes.
Like with the last lot, it wasn't advertised for single and separate relief. And my guess is that was because the single and separate abstract of title didn't indicate any common ownership.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right, just wanted to have that on the record as well. So they don't need relief about the single and separate status, but just in case they did, Curtis has, given us information.
Give you more than less.
Nevertheless.
Right.
Okay, all right. Any questions of members of the board? Katie, Anthony?
Nope.
Nope, okay. All right, is there anyone who's here in the boardroom who is waiting to be heard in connection with this application, which is the application for Southampton Housing Authority for property located at 93 Vale Avenue in Riverside? Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 93 Vale Avenue in Riverside? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
Okay. If not, Bob, it's
Could I,
yours.
just before Bob, Curtis, I want to thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You are doing an amazing service for the people of Southampton, and
you.
we thank you for that. And these houses are terrific. I've been over there with you and walked through the first two. I missed your wall raising the other day, but wish I could have been there. But the job you're doing with Habitat there, the houses are just great. They're great looking, they're great feeling, so
Thank you.
congratulations.
We're
and please
praying that there are several
please
lots
keep it
that
up.
the town still owns. We're praying that we're able to allocate those over to our program, and we will continue. I vowed that community that I would rebuild it, and that's what I'm going to hold.
Good.
Okay,
Keep it
very
up.
good. Thank you
Okay,
so
and I move
much.
to close, hold it open until March 3rd for written submissions with a decision on March 16th.
Second.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Chair votes aye. Thank you so much,
Thank
Curtis.
you. Be well.
You too. Have a good rest of your night.
Okay, case number 4, Megan Bishop and Sean Muthick. This is for property at 3 Oatfield Road in North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-60-1-15. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed 2-story dwelling with covered porch and screened-in porch with deck above on a non-conforming lot. Section 330-115C continuance for a principal front yard setback of 38 feet where 48.5 feet is existing, and 2, Section 330-84D pyramid height for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 3,652 cubic feet and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening.
That's
Good
it.
evening.
Susan?
For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Troy, Bridgehampton, New York. I have Sean Mutig, who's one of the applicants.
Okay.
And then we have Mark Matthews, who's the architect.
Okay.
Swear them both in. I'm sure Mark's going to butt in
Okay.
and tell me what I got wrong.
No problem. If you can just raise your right hands, if you can just state your names and addresses, please.
Mark Matthews, 220 Shore Road, Southampton, New York.
Okay.
Sean Muthig, 3 Oldfield Road, Second.
Okay. And do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, this property is in the Conscience Point section of North Sea, and the applicant Sean's goal is to rebuild it. This property suffered a fire in, say, in the late 90s? Mid-90s. And after purchasing it and then having an engineer's report done, they found that out. They wanted to add some more space to it, so the goal is to take that house down and then put a two-story house in its place. I think if you look at the site plan that Mark did, or the survey, you can see what the immediate challenges are. We're in a R40 zone, and the lot is 59, almost 60 feet on one end. Looks like to me, at the beginning of the curve, it's 50, so if it's 54, 55 on this end. I measured it where the house would be, and it's 58 feet wide. The R40 has a 70-foot rear yard and a 60-foot front yard. So looking at that, we have a more than negative building envelope. The lot obviously pre-exists zoning, it's 8,000 square feet and change. So that's the challenge that we have. What Mark and design and Sean agreed to do, I think, is really sensitive to the neighborhood and lessens the impact of what's going on. The first thing, if you look, the height of the structure is 29.8 feet, so they didn't go to the full 32. So to keep the pyramid law intrusion as low as they could. There's the, it's probably easier this way. The access to the house is off to the side, so there's the lack of depth, the 58 feet that I talked about, but it's a long lot, so they put the front entrance on the side so as not to intrude on Oldfield Road. So I think, you know, those two accommodations were done to mitigate the request that we're making. Another mitigation is, and I should probably do this so you can see it. There's an existing wood deck, which comes off of the house and comes out towards the road. It's at grade, so it didn't require any variances or a permit, but it is something that exists. The screened-in patio, which gives some extra livable space to what is a 1,300 square foot house, is here, and it's actually closer to the house than the existing wood deck. So that was another accommodation that we tried to do in the design of the project. Again, I think the benefit to Sean and Megan is pretty clear. They get to expand what is a very small house, I think, into something that's 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's 1,300 square feet of habitable space, which is very modest. The neighborhood is made up of a significant amount of two-story houses, so 2 stories is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, and it's 1.5 stories now, so they're just basically filling out a story to grab that extra space. And filling out that story is, again, as narrow as the lot is, we're gonna violate the pyramid law a little bit more. Existing house violates it by 500 and I think it's 25 cubic feet. So it's a situation that exists already. 560. So it's a situation that exists already. So the benefit's clear. I think, you know, the house has existed as a pre-existing certificate of occupancy, so it's been there since '57. So it's existed. I think it's become the character of the neighborhood. Clearly, we cannot achieve the benefit any other way than a variance, right? Again, the narrowness of the lot is really what creates it, the issue here. I've appeared before this board many times, watched many applications, and presented some pyramid law applications myself. And, you know, while 3,600 cubic feet is not small, I've seen this board approve much higher applications, and not that they're binding on you by any stretch of the imagination, but I think as you consider the ones that you've done in the past, and you put that in the substantiality part of the argument, it does not seem substantial in comparison to those previous applications. And again, we've tried to accommodate it and ask for the least variance possible and the least intrusive pyramid as possible. There will be no impact to the environment, and actually, if you look at the site plan, there's a proposal for the new updated IA system.
No, that's been installed.
Oh, it's been installed?
Already installed.
Yeah, it's already ahead of the game.
Yep.
So there's no impacts environmentally from this, and, self-created hardship is, certainly not binding. If you find it as a self-created hardship, this board and the courts have found that.
It is a factor, but
Yeah.
part of the five-part test, but we cannot deny a variance application based on the fact that it's self-created in and of itself.
So my argument with that is that it's really the zoning code that this lot and the house pre-existed zoning, so it's the imposition of the zoning code that's created the issue here. And we respectfully ask that you grant the request.
Okay, so the main relief that's of, I think, probably of some concern to members of the board is the pyramid relief. You're absolutely correct that the amount of cubic feet of pyramid relief is, in the scheme of things, 3652 is something we have granted often, this board. But usually when we get higher is when we have properties that have a constraint on them, such as wetlands. And the property is forced, the structure is forced to go to a location that requires a lot of pyramid relief. Here, we have an existing lot that creates some of the constraints. We have a lot that is 8,795 square foot lot. Yeah, so we have a small lot, we have a narrow lot, and that's what I think what the constraint is. That having been said, we often ask these days when it comes to pyramid relief about ceiling heights, and to make sure that it isn't, there isn't a way that we could reduce the amount of pyramid relief.
They're both 8 feet,
Okay,
except the master bedroom would follow the roof, but
Okay.
still, the rest of it's 8 feet.
8 feet.
8 foot basic lay height.
So-
For both levels, right?
Yes.
yeah, okay, okay.
I mean, we knew you'd be asking.
Okay, okay. But other than that, we did have some comments from the building department. I'm not sure if you.
Yeah, we followed up with them. These
Okay.
new plans that I have in front of me were responsive. They were delivered by Mark to the
On
board.
Monday and Tuesday.
Okay,
You
okay.
you have everything.
Okay,
So just follow up with Marge, because she has
Yep.
to make sure that you.
yeah, make sure that they're
Yeah.
satisfactory.
Art Gerhauser was the one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Art, then.
And
Okay.
I addressed everything that he asked.
Yeah.
We also
Okay.
have 2 letters in support from our neighbor to the west,
Mhm.
and then our neighbor to the north.
Mhm.
So directly across the street and directly next door.
Okay. You want to submit them to our
those.
attorney? Okay.
Do we have the latest survey?
You,
It may have been in
you do.
submissions.
That was delivered on Tuesday.
I
Oh,
bet
it may
it's-
be in the
The
submissions.
It's in the-
plans
probably in
were
the
delivered
submissions.
on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
But
I'm
you-
looking and I'm trying to find what you were looking
No,
at.
you do have it.
What,
All right, it's not-
what were you looking for?
What you were referring to, but it may be in the submittals.
I suspect it probably is.
All right, okay.
They're just originals for the file.
This
This is the proposed site plan. is what I was-
Okay.
Letters of
Yeah.
Just for people to see, but those are the originals, we don't have copies.
We
I'm
don't.
happy to give you
No.
my copy.
Nope.
Well,
Well,
the,
If it
Yeah.
helps.
Okay.
You have my scribbles on it.
Yes.
even better.
In the green? Oh, with the green.
Oh,
Yes,
it's in
I
the
see it.
submittals. All right, I've got
Okay.
it in the
As long as
submittals.
we
I
have
don't
it.
need your
You do.
scribbles.
Okay,
Okay,
very
thank you.
good, here it is.
Should also be.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
And my understanding is that this is being built on the foundation that exists?
Yes.
Or it's gonna, I don't know if you're gonna keep that, but you're gonna, it's the same
It's
footprint.
exactly the same footprint, and that was the reality is there's budgetary considerations too. So
Right,
you can't just
right.
make a long, big house, because it just costs more money. We gotta be careful of that to make it doable.
But that would be the same with moving it, that's why you're not increasing that side yard setback, because you're using the
We
existing
use the
foundation?
same foundation,
Okay.
yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, cost factor and also an expense. And if the applicant wanted to instead have everything be just a bigger, one-story structure, you'd be asking for variance relief for setbacks rather than variance relief for the pyramid and the pyramid relief and the relief that's being requested.
This is where it's always been.
Yeah.
Thought we'd leave it there.
Yeah, okay.
I actually went to the site, met your parents. They were walking the dogs.
His dad's here today.
No, where is he? Yeah. Hi. And, I think that the way that the houses are surrounding you, I don't think you're gonna be really impinging on anyone's views or air or anything like that with the increased height of the
Well,
building.
thanks, because that was the goal.
Yeah, well, there's a, it really is
These are
kind
all
of,
compact houses.
yeah, but
and
it's
this is
like,
also
there's
compact
space
house.
between, is
Yes.
what I'm saying, yeah, so.
Yeah.
It was the best place to keep it, right?
Mhm.
Started out in the right place and keep it in that place.
I agree.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? In the board, Katie, Anthony. Is there anyone from the public who is in the boardroom who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Bishop and Mudhegg? This is for property located at 3 Oldfield Road in North Sea. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 3 Oldfield Road in North Sea? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No, sir.
Okay. If not, Susan, it's yours.
Okay, so we're going to hold this open for the submission of written comments till March 3rd with a decision on March 16th.
Second?
Okay, Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Love your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's
Sweet,
beautiful
sweet
there.
spot right there. Yeah,
It's a very beautiful area.
okay,
yeah.
good luck.
Okay, case number 5, Babinski Trust. This is for property at 280 Mecox Road in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-103-2-43. Applicant requests relief from Town Code Section 330-11.2G, Special Standards, to legalize the conversion of an existing detached recreational building into an accessory apartment without the benefit of building permit on a non-conforming lot. The size of the accessory apartment is proposed to be approximately 42%, or 868 square feet of the total floor area of the principal dwelling, where a maximum of 35%, or 720 square feet, is permitted, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction. Mike?
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, Rob?
Good. For the applicant, Robert Marcinsic, O'Shea Marcinsic and Berlin, 250 North Sea Road, Southampton. All right, so subject property is located on the east side of Mecox Road, approximately 640 feet south of the intersection of Swan's Neck Lane and Mecox Road in Watermill. It is a rectangular shaped lot comprised of approximately 44,115 square feet, and it's located in an R60 zoning district. It's shown on the combined portions of the Suffolk County tax map as Exhibit A in the exhibit packet that you all should have a copy of, hopefully. It's been held in single and separate ownership since October 1971 and prior to the upzone in 1984. That made the lot non-conforming as to lot area. It has benefit of a CO issued in 1977 for a one-story, single-family dwelling, single-family two-story dwelling with a porch, arbor, deck, trellis, and 2 sheds. It also has benefit of a CC, which was issued in October of 2009 for the conversion of one of those sheds in the earlier CO to a recreational room, a detached recreational room. These COs and the CCs are shown on Exhibit A in the exhibit packet. The recreational building was once used as a farm stand on the property. It was located in the front portion of the property, and after the farm stand business was relocated, the structure was moved to its current location, became a shed. Thereafter, it was converted to a recreational room, and soon thereafter that, it became an unauthorized residential cottage, and it's been used that way for approximately 13 years. And we're seeking a variance to basically legitimize this structure that has a CC for a recreational room and convert it into an accessory apartment. Specifically, as the notice said, it's an application for variance to convert an existing detached recreational room with a gross floor area of approximately 868 square feet into an accessory apartment where the main dwelling is 2,056 square feet in size. So that's a variance for an accessory apartment that is 42% of the total floor area of the principal building, where 35% is allowed. In this instance, it would be for a 720 square foot accessory apartment. We submit that that this apartment will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or create a detriment to nearby properties. Surrounding area is comprised of many other, almost all residential parcels. The subject parcel is similar in lot size to the other parcels in the area, but most of the dwellings in that area have houses that are much larger than the dwelling on the subject property. The accessory apartment is a relatively modest one-bedroom, one-bath apartment. We've provided photographs of each side of the existing cottage apartment as Exhibit C. Floor plans and the elevations of that cottage apartment are provided in Exhibit D, and we also provided some photographs of the existing main dwelling on the property as Exhibit E in the exhibit packet. The combined living area of the accessory apartment and the existing dwelling on the subject property we submitted still less than the living space of most of the other homes in the area. And as indicated earlier, the building has been used as a residential cottage for about 13 years, and there have been minimal, if any, effects or detrimental impacts to the residential character of the neighborhood or any impact on nearby properties. We would submit that we can't feasibly achieve the benefits sought by some other method other than this variance. It's impractical for the applicant to demolish approximately 148 square feet of the recreational building in order to make it smaller and conform to the maximum lot size requirements under the zoning code. Constructing in addition to enlarge the existing principal building to reduce or eliminate the requested relief as a percentage of the principal building is also impractical. And either of these options we submit would pose a financial hardship to the applicant. We also submit that the variance sought here is not substantial. Accessory apartment is 42% of the floor area of the principal building, as I earlier indicated. 35%, as you know, is allowed under the zoning code, so that represents a 20% deviation from the standard. We were also asked to provide a calculation of the ratio of the habitable space of the accessory apartment in relation to the main dwelling. And that calculation indicated that the habitable space is only 37.9% of the habitable space of the main dwelling, which is only about an 8% deviation from the 35% standard when viewed in this way. That calculation is included again in the exhibit packet as Exhibit F. And again, submit that it's only 148 square feet of additional gross floor space that we're looking for here. We would submit that that's minimal, not substantial, and is the minimal variance necessary in order to ameliorate the practical difficulty and hardship that the applicant has. Lastly, I guess, well, maybe not lastly, but getting there. Now, the grant of a variance also we would submit is not going to have any adverse effect or impacts on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Size of the accessory apartment is modest, which minimizes any perceived impacts to the neighborhood. It's been utilized, as I indicated earlier, for many years, 13 or more, with no apparent physical or environmental impacts to the neighborhood. And it's, if you look at the survey, it's located 93 feet from the front property line, 66 feet from the side yard, and 32 feet from the rear yard. That's more than what's required in the R60 zoning district, where the setbacks are 90 feet from the street and 20 from the side and rear yard based upon the size of the lot. There's also ample screening to hide the accessory apartment from view on all sides We've provided pictures as Exhibit G in the exhibit packet of all of the privet hedges that basically surround the property. Lastly, the structure that is proposed to be an accessory apartment, as I said, has been on the property since 1997. It's been used as a residential cottage since about 2009, and there's been no discernible negative impacts to the neighborhood. Now lastly, I guess, we have provided also several letters in support, one of which is from the next door neighbor to the south, and we also have provided several other letters, I guess, from residents who live in the neighborhood, all expressing their support of the application. So that is all I have to say.
Okay.
I am ready to answer any questions.
Sure. So who has familiarity with how this structure, this accessory apartment was basically created without permits? Who built it?
Who built that? I would suspect, and this again is just my supposition, that one of the let me see, Sheila Spooner, who used to be Sheila Bobinski, her husband was a builder in Bridgehampton, and James Spooner, who died a number of years ago. And if I were a betting man, I would say that he probably was the one that constructed as a farm stand and eventually converted it into a an accessory apartment. I know that he was involved, I was told he was involved in the installation of a sanitary system that services that accessory building currently.
So he did that too without
permits? Did not have any permits.
Wow.
From the health department.
Okay.
Which is yet another thing that we have to do here.
Okay. Well, presuming that that is the case, then it would be helpful, I think, to have something in writing that that is the case. That we believe that this is the person.
I can
that this
give
is
you
the
an
person who did
affidavit
it.
from someone who has knowledge.
Yeah, just so we can understand how this happened. And I just want to mention, it's just particularly significant when it's something like an accessory apartment, when someone builds this kind of a structure without permits, because the electric could be wrong. The plumbing could be wrong. There could be dangers to people who are going to be residing there by doing this. So I just, I just want to make clear on the record that folks understand the significance of particularly
Building a structure with residential
particularly
structure
this kind of structure without permits. I mean, building a deck, building a shed, even an accessory building, but when it's living space, that's in my view a lot more significant in terms of the danger. I mean, we had a tragedy happen in the town of Southampton with someone who did a whole bunch of things without permits. So I just don't take it lightly. But we don't have anyone to answer the question other than to say the person who had done the work is in all likelihood the person who is deceased. So.
Can I just get a clarification? Sure. The certificate of compliance from September of 2009 said it converted the shed to a recreation room.
Correct.
So it was, at least, the building department must have looked at it as a recreation.
It was approved as an accessory.
But then that recreation room was changed again.
I'm saying, it wasn't a shed to an accessory, it was shed to recreation.
Right.
And that is true. So one could say that maybe at least for the building itself, at least that was done with the rules.
The shed is what you're considering the farm stand? Is that the same?
Pardon me?
The shed?
The shed was
a farm stand way back when. It was a farm stand at one time. The Babinskis ran a farm stand off the front of the property.
Yeah.
When that farm stand got relocated, it was operating on New Light Lane, which is on a 7 and change ag reserve that they own there on New Light Lane across from Kellis Pond and West Pond Drive and all that. That shed, the farm stand no longer became necessary, so they moved it back.
Right.
And then it was converted to a rec room, and then it's
made
been
it a
converted
rec
to
room,
accessory.
and
So I
then-
just,
For a long time, it's been an accessory apartment,
Yeah.
since
Oh, yeah.
2009.
Yes.
So, and I mean, this person's, the applicant's daughter. So, I mean, obviously, that this is very, very important to the family to make sure that it's safe.
Right.
But still. So I just kind of wanted to have that,
That's fine.
on the record.
I'll ask
yeah.
the owner and Sheila for that matter.
Just to give us
That was my
something.
understanding in speaking about various things, as I said, it was indicated to me,
Yeah.
as far as the sanitary system was concerned, that, that her husband had you know, so I assumed, based upon that he
Yeah,
had,
yeah.
you know, done also the work. And again, he was a general contractor, that was his livelihood before he passed away.
And if he was a
Not-
general
yeah.
contractor, all the more reason that he should have known to do it the right
Perhaps.
way. But anyway,
Perhaps.
that's how it goes. You know,
He
it's
knew he
just-
wouldn't have gotten permission, so I mean.
well, he would have had to get, they would have had to come and get a variance.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, and maybe they were aware of that, or maybe not.
Oh, maybe
I don't
not,
Yeah,
maybe
I
not.
mean, putting in a sanitary system without approvals, I mean, that's
That's a
something.
little bit-
Has that gotten approvals at this point?
No, not yet, we're in the
Okay,
process of
waiting
getting
for,
that, right.
for this first and then.
Right.
And I'm assuming a building permit would also be.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we
they're
need
gonna have
yeah,
to
we
do-
need to submit a building permit for the
Oh, yeah.
conversion of
building.
a,
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
for a rec room now to an accessory apartment. So,
Yeah.
we'd have to
Right,
submit
so
a
it all
building
has to
permit.
be legalized.
Right, and I appreciate the fact that you're here to fix, you know, to
Right.
resolve the issue.
Mhm.
And so that's, you know, that's something that I want to acknowledge as well. But yeah, it's just, these kinds of things cross my mind with this kind of an
Understood.
application. And that having been said, would it have a negative, this application have a negative impact on the neighbors? I can't see how it would. So.
They would
As long as it
not.
doesn't burn down.
Well, and accessory apartments are to help families, and this is exactly what this
Correct.
is. So all of that, you know, is all good. But, you know, anyway.
But
just-
for the,
Yeah,
lack
yeah.
of
And-
building and electrical.
Yeah,
permits.
and Rob, you know, whenever we have as-built, I'm almost always gonna ask the
I know.
question about how they went up. I mean, matter of
Right.
fact, I will always ask the question, there may not be anyone to answer the question like it's the case here. But that is. You know,
Well, there might be someone to answer the question, but not the person that actually did the work, let's just say. You know.
Absolutely. Sometimes it'll be a contractor, sometimes it'll be the owner, or someone else who is working for the owner that had familiarity with what
Based on
transpired.
instances, would have been the owner's son-in-law, so.
Yeah, right. Yep, so, but in any case, this is what we see, and it's not always just an accessory apartment, it's not always just, you know, an accessory
Any
building. We have had
construction.
whole houses go up without any permits whatsoever, on rare occasions, we have, yeah. So, anyway, that having been said, any other questions?
Yeah, I
members of the
just
board?
wonder what precipitated the getting this
I think there was a
legitimized
notice
now.
of violation that they finally received. I don't know if there was a complaint or what, but somehow there was a notice of violation. To be honest, I mean, it might have arose, there's an actual mailbox for the accessory apartment, which is like B, I think, so the address is 280, then there's a 280B.
Yeah.
And I think there was some request by the post office that they start delivering, they just throw all the mail in 280 mailbox. And they're like, well, there's 280B, so put it there. And I think that was pushed maybe a little hard, and I don't know if, as a result of that, someone in the post office decided to say, hey, how did this
How'd this get here?
building, this new address get there? I don't
Or
know.
it could be. You
Or it
know,
could have been a neighbor, I
it
don't know.
could
But,
have been a
you know,
neighbor.
I mean, again,
And we, yeah.
there seems to be a lot of support by the neighbors.
Okay,
you know,
which is
with
good.
respect to the application.
It's
so.
very well protected, I mean, you
Yeah, I
can't
was
even
by-
see it from the,
I was by the property
Yeah.
and,
It looks nice.
yeah, you can't see it, it's,
Right. Far off the road, there's
Yeah.
high hedges.
yep.
Okay, all right. Is there anyone here who is in the boardroom who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is the application of the Babinski Trust for property located at 280 Mecox Road in Watermill? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application,
No,
which, no one on Zoom? Did you say no one on Zoom?
No one. That's
No
correct.
one on Zoom, okay. Okay, all right, thanks, Charlie. All right, if not, Mike, it is yours.
so we will, are we waiting? We're waiting?
I'm gonna submit a affidavit, I guess, from the,
Please.
with regard to the construction.
We're gonna leave it
Or the
open.
conversion.
We're gonna close this public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions, looking for that affidavit before March 3rd. I believe that's the date. And
Yes.
then we'll have a decision on March 16th is the plan.
Second.
Mr. Daly,
All right.
Mr. Macedonio,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Aye. Chair votes aye. Thanks so
Very
much,
good.
Rob.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're up.
See ya.
Okay, case number 6,
Take care. Good night.
Bye now.
Matthew Roden and Jessica Vieira. This is for property at 1 Seatuck Lane in Rumsenburg, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-380-1-48. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, the proposed additions to an existing one-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot, section 330-84D, pyramid height, for a total pyramid encroachment in the amount of 6,134 cubic feet as follows. 5,516 cubic feet proposed on the northwest side, where 1,524 cubic feet currently exists, plus 618 cubic feet on the southeast side, where 57 currently exists. 2, for a proposed elevated deck, section 330-84A and C yards, to allow a deck higher than 1 foot above the ground to be located within the required front yard. And 3, for a proposed swimming pool. 1, section 330-11, for an accessory front yard setback from 60 feet to 32.5 feet from the south property line of Mauritius Bay, and an accessory distance from the street setback from 70 feet to 28 from Rogers Lane, and any other relief necessary.
Jim, do you have an affidavit of posting anywhere, or?
Oh, yes, I have it here in my office. I will have to, I'll have to email it tomorrow, if that's okay. But
Do you have a-
I did
do you have a
personally post
photo
it
of
and
or-
I signed the
I'm just gonna
affidavit.
look at her photo. I mean, you know it's supposed to be here in my hands.
Yep, in order for us to have
I
jurisdiction.
need an affidavit of posting.
You can email it to me and I can show it if you'd like.
You just,
Okay.
please just send it over.
Pardon me?
Yeah, send it over to.
Send it over.
Candace, or send it to Candace, please.
Okay.
Okay, but we have a picture of it, so we're
No,
gonna,
she showed me a picture
I have
of
a
the
picture of the
poster.
posting
the
itself.
posting itself.
But it was
I
sent, yeah.
believe you, I believe Jim, we just need something that ordinarily it's supposed to be in my hands. The Zoom makes things a little tricky.
Well, and this really is a jurisdictional issue.
Yes, it is, that's why I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, we're not gonna start the hearing until we do something. People see that's been done.
Want a second call it, or?
Yeah, why don't we second call it?
We're gonna bring the next people up.
Yeah,
Okay, Jim,
yeah.
we're gonna second call it.
Okay,
Okay, moving right along.
so now we're on to case number 7. This is Dominic Fortino for property at 9 Sun Valley Road, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-269-1-22. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed 1-story addition with a garage beneath on the non-conforming lot. Section 330-115C, continuance for a front yard setback of 20 feet where 38.1 feet is existing, and sub 2, section 330-84D, pyramid law, for an encroachment in the amount of 9 cubic feet and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction. Is anybody here for this?
Okay, another second call.
Nobody on-
Oh, might be on
Nobody on
Zoom.
Zoom?
On Zoom,
Yeah, James went doing some.
okay.
Coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Oh,
Yes, hello, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
I'm having difficulties with the video. I'm actually split between two meetings. We had 4 hearings tonight.
okay.
Okay, well, we can do it without
The
seeing.
North Shore,
Okay.
The North Shore, unfortunately. I appreciate the Zoom though. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, so even though we can't see you, I can, unless you're an attorney, I will be swearing you in. So if you can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Absolutely. My name is James Zabka. I am with Todd O'Connell Architects, and our offices are located at 1200 Veterans Highway, Hauppauge, New York, 11788.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can tell us about the application.
Absolutely. The application in front of you tonight is for Dominic Fortino. His property was located at 9 Sun Valley Road, Hampton Bays. The application is a proposal to construct a 1-story addition on the east end of the property with a garage below. Now, the property is somewhat unique in nature to the neighborhood. It is a corner lot, and on the east end of this property, it abuts what you would call a sun court and the rear yard of a neighboring property. With the addition that we're proposing, we're requesting to reduce the setback of the second front yard down to 20 feet, with a sky exposure request of approximately 9 cubic feet. We feel this is a pretty modest application in nature. It's not overwhelming. We meet the other criteria for setbacks and the lot coverage. The 20% lot coverage we're asking for, the required 20%, we're asking for 13.45, which is approximately a 5% increase. So we are under that. We designed this addition in the matter of not trying to make this a two-story dwelling. We're only looking to gain a master suite with removing actual bedroom from the property. This is an existing 970 square foot cabana, 900 square foot cottage house that's pretty particular to the neighborhood back when they were built in the time. And then also doing this project, we proposed this addition on this side because they are also looking to do an in-ground pool. In doing that, we felt that the in-ground pool for the privacy of this homeowner would be better suited if it was placed actually in the front yard of this property. As you can see the site plan and plot plan, this house is located very much towards the back of this lot. You can see that the existing home only actually holds approximately 18.8 feet off the rear yard, where the front yard is very deep. We did actually have one phone call from the neighbors who was in agreement with the addition. His only request that we did look at after the driveway was designed and approved by highway engineering was if we could maybe possibly bring the driveway off of Sun Court, as it used to be, coming up into the existing garage, but we are converting the basement into living space rather than adding a second floor to this dwelling. So we feel that, keeping the driveway as designed would actually be less of an impact to the neighborhood than to actually bring it up the existing way that the previous owner had it before this, our new owner purchased in October of 2021. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Have you heard from the neighbors?
We haven't heard from any neighbors except for the one that actually is to the east of this property.
Okay.
Very nice gentleman. He had no problem with the addition. His only preference was if we could relocate the driveway. We did do that study and we did look at it, but it would not be conducive to this property. We feel that it would actually be more impactful because he had requested that we look at the driveway the way the two owners ago had it. This house actually had a garage existingly underneath. It came up from Sun Court and you entered straight in. But in doing the new garage and the addition, we just wouldn't be able to make the turn radiuses requirement, and it would not operate very well for a car nor parking. We also took into consideration that these are, pretty much narrow roads and it's a very podgy area. So we actually tried to make more of a driveway surface so there wouldn't be much on-street parking, I would say, if there were to have guests for this family over, while they use this home as their summer home.
Okay, well, we'll see if that adjacent property owner is, wants to be heard. We'll find out. Okay. But overall, the pyramid relief is practically nothing. So it's really the setback relief, and it's really only impacting the neighbor to the, I believe it's the east, that is kind of confusing if you look on the survey,
Yeah.
the north goes
Yeah, the way
that
you look
way.
at the survey and also
Yeah.
the arrows, it's a very confusing street.
Yeah.
You have Sun Valley Road, which is like the main road, and then it branches off to Sun Valley Court. So the neighbor to the east is actually I believe it's almost like his front yard, but it's covered in trees and it's not across from the driveway.
Okay,
So that would be the only impact to any of these properties.
right, okay, and we have an aerial in our, what we get in connection with
Yeah,
every
this-
application. So, taking a look at it, a little confusing,
No,
but
this
taking a
is-
look, but taking a look at it, does not appear to be a structure directly next to where the.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Both the
where this
houses
is.
to the east are actually more towards the water side of this property, so you're actually abutting more like a tree line on that
Yeah,
side.
yeah, okay. All right,
We have two different surveys here. One
we do.
has the proposed driveway coming off of Sun Court,
One
and then the other
And one
one
was probably is existing.
does does not.
Yeah.
It's got the proposed pool and everything on it.
Yeah, so I think that the survey with the proposed structures on it is the one we need to look at. The other one is just really what presently exists.
But that includes moving the driveway over to Sun Court, which I just thought that the gentleman was saying that they did not want to do.
Well, they didn't want to do it, but the applicants determined that it was not feasible to do what the neighbor wants. And so
Oh,
the
okay.
applicant's
Right.
leaving the application the way it is.
Got it.
Yeah,
So-
we did look at it after speaking with him, you know, and I did take a look at that, and to bring the driveway off of Sun Court would be like a straight-on entrance on Sun Court, and then you would have to like zigzag almost west and then straight and then try to make a right turn. And in doing that, I don't believe it would work out operational to turn a vehicle, bringing up that way. And also with the grading of the property, this property grades from Sun Valley Road from approximately 8 feet to 22 feet to the back of the garage.
You know, it is confusing because it looks to me like you're talking about, what you're proposing is coming off Sun Court. What they
Correct.
were asking for is Sun Valley Road, is that correct?
No, they're asking to come off Sun Court. Sun Court makes like a right embankment. Then the 2 owners ago, the driveway actually came off of Sun Court like straight on, if you're coming up Sun Court.
But
Oh, I
you're-
see,
you're-
I see what you're saying, yeah.
But-
And they made a quick left to, basically, the garage used to be on the front end of the house underneath, off of Sun Court. It was very odd.
But you're currently, you're proposing a driveway off of Sun Court.
Correct.
Okay,
Sun-
but
Sun
a different configuration.
Yes, it would be considered like the north end of Sun Court.
Okay, all right.
It's not really a big circle court, it's more like a flat court.
Okay, got it.
The area that has trees blocking.
Yes,
it
correct,
now.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Is there anyone who's in the boardroom who's waiting to be heard in connection with the application of Fortino? This is for property located at 9 Sun Valley Road in Hampton Bays. Sir, you can feel free to come on up. Okay, and unless you're an attorney, I just have to swear you in.
Sure.
So if you can state your name and address.
Richard Iannelli, 4 Bayview Drive, Hampton Bays, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can tell us your thoughts on the application.
Well, I just found out about this yesterday. I'm 125 feet away, but technically the ZBA was very nice explaining to me because I'm not adjacent to the property, I'm not entitled to any paperwork.
Right.
But consideration would have been nice. We're very congested in this area. There's like 4 homes that are like basically on top of each other, even though it's at the end of a beautiful cul-de-sac. We're part of Hampton Hills Association, and that's Sun Valley, but we share the backyard.
Okay, but you're not an adjacent property owner?
I'm not adjacent property owner.
Okay.
Okay. Ron Paulson, who is, I gave papers for you guys, he can't be here tonight.
Okay.
So basically, we share the same concerns.
Okay.
So-
Is Ron and Gwen Paulson adjacent property owners?
Right behind, yes.
They are,
Then
okay.
yeah, right
Okay.
behind.
All right.
So again, I didn't know about the posting until yesterday, so I
Mhm.
worked on this like as fast as I could to try to make as much sense as possible. The ZBA was very nice explaining to me why I didn't receive any notice.
Mhm.
Okay?
Candace, you mean? the
Candace,
secretary.
yes, she
This
was-
is the ZBA.
She was
Candace.
unbelievable. Put me at ease, I was so nervous before. All right, so the following concerns. First off, I got to see the application or the papers that was sent to my neighbor Ron. And they were very vague. The only plot plan there was the original plot plan of the house, not any proposed structure. It didn't detail a new septic tank, it didn't detail anything other than what was there. So when I wrote this, I was very confused on what they were asking, so that's why I was here. So I felt, it was vague, lacking details, and overall incomplete. That was sent to the neighbor. And then the zoning variance allows you to use property in a way that would ordinarily not be allowed under current laws. The need for this variance request is unnecessary because there are alternatives that were not present in the application. So the application was, this is what, there was no other alternatives besides what was sent to us, and it was, again, just a plot plan of the original house.
But you're here, and you've heard the public hearing.
Yeah, I heard the public
and
hearing,
you
so now-
submitted a letter from the adjacent property owners.
Right, so, the question we had, one of the variants was for a spiral staircase to the deck.
It was in the application, but it wasn't in the write-up for.
Okay, so it probably doesn't need relief. The only thing it's written up for is this 20-foot setback and a small pyramid encroachment.
Yes.
Right, there was three
Yeah, that's what they,
variances.
yeah, well,
I
that's,
understand, but what
Right.
we're hearing are two variance applications, essentially. One for pyramid relief of 9 cubic feet.
Right.
Which is minuscule,
Right.
okay? Minuscule. And then the setback relief. And the setback relief is continuance of front yard setback from 38.1 feet existing to 20 feet proposed.
Okay.
And that is for this proposed one-story with garage beneath structure that is proposed.
And then.
So, and that's the main relief, is
I'm under the
the
assumption
setback.
that the ridge of the house is remaining exactly the same. It's not getting elevated.
Well, we're not
not
being asked for any
before us.
relief.
Right.
So we're not being asked for
any
any
higher.
It's not requiring variance relief.
Okay. Again, because we didn't have much information, we were wondering proximity to the bay and the excess of nitrogen that goes into the bay in these homes. Was there any additions to the septic system? We had no knowledge of what they were doing
wouldn't get that.
septically to the.
Well, the septic system, and we can ask the agent for the applicant, but that is health department, that is not us.
Right, and then the previous owner already clear-cut the entire property, and there was no offset provided. So, this is, we had many questions that remain on the property since it's not the primary resident of the applicant.
And
So-
that's neither here nor there as far as we're concerned.
Right.
There's no requirement that it be a primary residence of an applicant. People are allowed to rent their property.
Mhm.
Okay?
Okay.
Yep.
So, that's what we had questions of.
Okay. All right, and so we also got a letter from the actual adjacent property owners, Ron and Gwen Paulson, and which pretty much outline what you've indicated to
Right.
us. And we appreciate that. We'll consider what the concern of the adjacent property owner is, as expressed by you. You're not an adjacent property owner, so, I don't know that this application impacts you directly.
Well, he's
but
in my
it
line-
doesn't,
he's
but
in-
it doesn't impact the.
He's
the
in my
neighbor.
line of sight from behind my house, so I just wanna.
How far away is this proposed structure from your property?
125 feet.
Okay.
And he's
So
only
I
looking-
see- I
he's
see
only
it
looking
from
for
my
9
deck.
feet of relief.
What?
Pure relief. Same line of sight, but he's only looking for 9 feet.
Right, I had no knowledge, all I had from my neighbor, again, I didn't even have this. was
But
given
you're
to
not,
me.
but you're not an adjacent property owner, but,
No, not
but
adjacent
Ron
property
and Gwen Paulson are,
Right.
okay? It's not that I am discounting anything that you have to say to us, I'm listening to you,
Right.
but we have to consider primarily the people who are adjacent property owners who arguably are impacted by the relief that's
Right.
being requested. You weren't even required to be noticed for the hearing, you're here, you're expressing your point of view, and I appreciate that, but want to take a look at Ron and Gwen's concerns in
Okay.
particular. Yeah, yeah,
but
okay.
you should come and look at the file, like come look at the file tomorrow or next week, they'll keep the record open.
We're gonna keep the record open, and
How
so
long?
it's gonna be kept open until March 3rd,
Yeah.
No,
which
well,
is-
the written
Okay.
submissions.
for written submissions.
Decision, March 16th.
Correct.
All right.
For written submissions, so if anyone at all wants to submit any additional information to us, up until end of business on March 3rd, you can do so.
Perfect,
The file that she's talking about, the one that you saw earlier today.
all right.
Yeah.
You can freeway stop and see it again if you want.
Okay, but appreciate your coming in and expressing your concerns.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay,
All
no
right.
problem.
Thank you for
Okay.
your work, it's
All right.
great here.
No problem, thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, James, I wanted to ask if you want to respond? James, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. All right, well, just want to ask if you want to respond.
In reference to any of the concerns, I believe one concern was a question as far as the septic. This is an existing legal 3-bedroom house. We are not increasing the bedroom count. And the building department as of now has not brought up any concerns of operating the system. If it is a requirement of the building department and the Suffolk County Department of Health that it has to be done, obviously we will take that application into account and that will be handled. And as far as the impact to the neighboring property distance-wise, we are holding, the existing house is at the 17-foot mark, we are holding the 19.9, and from looking at the aerial, it looks like that neighboring property is probably approximately that house is probably another 40 feet away off his back property line. So it looks like it's a 60-foot buffer. And also, once this property is constructed and, it's being finished off, because of the amount of work we are doing, the owner will be doing buffering trees, around the pool area, and if required to do along that property line as well, if there was a clear cut.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question? Did I see plans in our packet? Did anybody get plans?
I don't think I
You may
did.
have had, I don't know if you got a smaller version, these are the originals, because Helen
I
is,
did not get a smaller version
wanna look
either.
at them?
Did anybody?
I
Or
did
am
not.
Okay.
I did not.
Okay, 'cause
And
I
often it
think-
only goes to the lead.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I'm not the lead.
Yep.
Helen is.
Yep.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to look at it, that's back.
Okay. Take a look. Thank you very much.
Okay. But that's from the original file?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we're
All
gonna
right,
need
I'll
that.
have to pass it back.
Pass it back. Okay. All right. In the meantime, just want to ask, is there anyone else who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with the application of Fortino for property located at 9 Sun Valley Road in Hampton Bays? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
No hands. Okay.
No hands.
If not, Helen, it's yours.
James, can you,
Okay,
wait, Helen,
Wait, wait.
James, can you please send, can you please email the board another set of the plans so that the board members can look at the plans?
Oh, just send a email of the PDF, the plans to, the board?
Well,
Send it to Candace and Candace
Candace.
sends it to the board. Otherwise, Candace
Yes,
has to
I
scan
can
it.
send the PDF to Candace, that's not a problem at all.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, Helen?
Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Yep.
Leave it open for written submissions till March 3rd with a decision on March 16th. I have to say, I have no problem with this application, and I think the driveway is going to make a tremendous contribution to this house because it is so high, and you have to walk up this graph.
Yep.
I think, James, this is so excellent that you
Thank
go
you. Thank you.
driveway. I don't know how these people live in this house without a different driveway, but you did a beautiful, beautiful job, James.
I appreciate it, thank you, Helen.
Welcome.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And I guess we're gonna go back to, or
Back.
are we good to go back?
Yes, so let me just
Yeah.
say something, Jim, for the record. We're supposed to have the affidavit of posting in hand. We're supposed to have the original in hand, certainly things get a little messed up with Zoom. So if the board proceeds with opening it, because the applicant's here, because Jim is here, because he sent us the affidavit of posting, Jim, the risk is on you if somebody challenges the jurisdiction of the board. Because I don't have it in hand. I mean, I was just looking at the code, our practice has always been original in hand, but
Right,
they
right.
showed me the poster, it has been posted, Jim filled out the affidavit,
Did we see the affidavit?
he sent it to Candace.
I have it.
Okay, and it looks like it was correctly completed?
Yes, and it has today's date on it.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
Can we print
all
it?
right.
Jim's gonna send us the
He's
original
gonna send me
tomorrow.
the original.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Okay, but we're gonna go
Actually,
off.
I'm gonna be in
off
the town
copy.
tomorrow morning.
He's
so
gonna be in the
I'll
town
hand
tomorrow,
it.
he's gonna hand deliver it.
Thank you.
So that's what we done during Zoom. I don't know
Thank
if it's
you.
anything different, but when we were truly on Zoom.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
what I'm saying, it's,
Yep,
That's what we did
yeah.
during COVID, right?
yes.
Right.
I'm comfortable going forward.
I don't wanna
Yep,
make it a
yep, it's-
thing, but.
Yeah.
But it's a thing.
That's a fact.
All
Okay,
right,
So the
so
board has
we're gonna proceed.
jurisdiction with number,
Okay.
Back
So,
to number
Jim,
six.
do you want me to swear these folks in?
Yes, please, I think they're gonna, I'm
Yep.
gonna set the table, they're gonna have some comments, and then I'll continue.
Okay, very good. So you can just both state your names and address for the record, please.
Jessica Vieira, 1 Seatuck Lane, Remsenburg.
Okay, and sir?
Matthew Roden, 1 Seatuck Lane, Remsenburg.
And do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jim, all yours.
So for the applicant, James Denhill, 323 Mill Road, West Hampton Beach, as was read in the notice, we're here tonight to talk about property located at 1 Seatuck Lane in Remsenburg. This lot has several challenges which contribute to the relief that we need, and I just wanted to touch on them quickly. We did submit a single and separate search, which on this matter, which precluded any setback issues for the main structure. It also is a corner lot, a bayfront lot, and a small lot. So it's got a lot of stuff going on here. If you were to drive there, you would see an existing modest two-story house with a swimming pool and deck on the bay side, which under the village code is the front yard of this property. Applicants are seeking to expand the house, again, still modest because of the size of the lot. On the first floor to provide more living space, and on the second floor to add an additional bedroom and some much needed bathrooms. Before I go into the details, my client has prepared an owner's statement which we'd like to present to you all before we continue. So I'll turn it over to Jessica.
Whoever would like to,
Whoever would like to read it.
read it.
Great.
Yep.
Well, I want to start off by thanking you for your time tonight and your consideration of the application. Jessica, my wife, and I have been homeowners in the township of Southampton for 23 years. We've lived at this address for 7 years, almost 8. And ever since we first closed on the purchase, we had been working with all of the relevant agencies and jurisdictions to triangulate all the things that would be needed in this very challenging property to, bring it into the 21st century and to, significantly improve the environmental profile of this property. And that's something we're really passionate about because Jessica and I and our kids are active members of West Hampton Yacht Squadron. We're sailors, we're on the water all the time. And conservation is something we're very passionate about. So the plan that you see here today is one that has really taken 7 years to get to this point, through all the gymnastics that one must do to get to this point. I just want to highlight a couple of the benefits of the proposal here. So number one, significant improvement in the denitrification of the property. There's an old septic that's only about 30 feet from the bay currently. That's the existing. We have a state-of-the-art, best case IA denitrifying system now in the furthest part of the property proposed as part of this plan that is in keeping with the Suffolk County Clean Waters Initiative and is provisionally approved by the Department of Health. There's a very significant decrease in lot coverage with this plan. So the existing has 55% lot coverage, and that is as we bought it with C of O, with survey on file. Nothing has changed since we bought the house. That's going down from 55% coverage to 38% with this application. Very significant reduction. We're also taking an oil tank out of the coastal flood zone, decreasing fossil fuels with solar energy production on the top. We're reducing stormwater generation by 24,000 gallons per year by this reduction in lot coverage, in particular removal of the asphalt driveway. The proposed pool and deck that you see in this plan, the pool is in exactly the same footprint that is in the existing. The deck is significantly smaller, but both are now being raised to prevent dewatering in compliance with FEMA standards. That is the plan. We are also installing a 30-foot revegetation zone on the bay side of the property, which is currently partially covered by that deck that we're taking down as part of this plan. So in totality, the benefits of this proposal we think are very, very significant for all of us. And certainly are aligned with the Township of Southampton's sustainability and resiliency goals. I want to touch on one or two more points. Number one, the modest increase in heated space of this property is entirely enclosed, or nearly entirely enclosed by where there's existing structures, raised decks, et cetera. around the house. The resulting structure, if approved, would be in keeping with the neighborhood. In terms of the size, it would be only median size of the comparable bayfront lots along that block. And there have been several precedents on the block of pyramid relief and setback relief as well. One key thing is that we've consulted with all of our neighbors on this project before finalizing the plans and submitting them. The key thing is that our immediate next door neighbor has written a letter of support that I hope that you have. It was submitted to Candace. That's Marvin Backer. And also our neighbor immediately across the street, where we're in basically her view. She has also written into the board in support of this project. We consulted with all of the neighbors before we finalized the plans, and that was something that's important to us. So we recognize that you know, this requires, of course, relief from this board, and we appreciate your consideration. We hope that you can see that in partnership, we can significantly improve the environmental profile and modestly improve the living conditions of the property. So thank you again for your time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And so that's kind of I guess the conclusion before the factual presentation. You now know all the benefits that are going to derive from the board hopefully granting this variance. Because of the single and separate nature of the property, and because of the fact that for the most part all of the additions are covering already covered space, as I indicated, the home itself doesn't require any setback relief, but only the pyramid relief that was identified earlier. And you know, in part, the need for the pyramid relief is driven by the fact that the existing house is already at 16.8. The finished floor is at 16.8 feet, which is, and we're in an AE8 zone, I believe, so that's almost 6 foot higher than the FEMA would require. But it would certainly result in tremendous expense if the applicants had to rebuild the entire house because they couldn't get the pyramid relief that's being sought here. The neighbor directly adjacent to the larger component of the pyramid relief has indicated in a letter, which if you don't have, we can provide, that he has no objection at all to the project as a whole. And the pyramid relief is necessary to get the headspace so that the bathrooms and the additional bedroom on the second floor can actually be put to use. As to the pool, as Matt indicated, they're merely lifting the pool up to the same elevation as the house. If you have visited the house, or which I have, and the Reardons know this full well, it's kind of awkward to come out of the house and go down quite a few sets of stairs to get to the pool. And it is the same with the deck that surrounded the pool. And the pool is being elevated in kind. The deck is being elevated, but is also being significantly reduced in size. I believe 500 or 600 square feet or so of deck is going away from the project. The pool and the deck did, in fact, have the benefit of a 1986 zoning board decision. This was well before my clients bought this property. They purchased it in the middle 2010s, I believe, or 7 years ago, I believe is what they indicated. That allowed for the pool and the deck to encroach up to 38 feet from the water. However, the pool and the deck was never built to that dimension. It was actually built by a prior owner to the dimension that exists today, which is quite a bit less than what the applicant is seeking with this variance relief. And in fact, a CO was issued to the property after the pool was and deck were built in that configuration. I don't know if there was a failure to inspect or what, but in any event, when my clients came along and purchased the property, the deck and the pool were configured as they were, and a facial review of the record indicated that there was a CO for a pool in the deck. So I don't believe they inquired any further, but they are rectifying the situation to a large degree by the removal of the deck, portions of the deck that are shown in the plan. And again, the final bit of relief has to do with the accessory setbacks for the pool and the deck from the bay and from Rogers Lane. And if you look at the survey of the property, you'll see that the property itself is not actually rectangular and is small and is impacted by a bit of road that I don't know that anybody but my clients actually use, although it is a public road, so the setback needs to be
Rogers, right?
Respected. But it does create a hardship for my clients that is unique to them and not of their making. Let's see. So that in a nutshell is basically it. And Matt reviewed all the benefits that derive from this. There has been no neighborhood opposition. In fact, has been neighborhood support from the direct adjacent neighbor. And I believe my clients may have had a conversation with the neighbor across the street, which they can relate to you as well.
Yeah. And Sandy sent that letter in as
Yeah,
well.
both letters have been sent. There was letters of support from both the western neighbor, who's most impacted, both of the two neighbors that were most impacted, the northern neighbor and the western neighbor are most impacted by the changes, and both sent letters of support.
Okay. All right. So I just want to give you a little bit of my perspective here at this point for what it's worth. As far as the pool and the deck go, we had 1986 prior variance. The pool and the deck ended up being built at a different location than what the variance said, but this board previously granted relief for the pool and the deck to get most of what the relief that you're asking for now, for what it's worth. I'm not exactly sure how it happened that it ended up being built at a different location, but we don't have to get into that too much right now. This property does have some wetlands issues on a section of it, so that gives you some limitations as to what you can do and where. It doesn't cover, half of the parcel, but it covers a chunk of it. And I think probably the way in which this dwelling ended up being located where it was may have been driven by that. If this dwelling was centered right in the middle of the property, you wouldn't be here asking for pyramid relief, I don't think, for what it's worth. So, I mean, there is that consideration. The amount of pyramid relief that's being requested at 6,134 cubic feet total, which should be noted, it looks like about over 1,500 of it previously existed. So it's really an increase of around 4,500 cubic feet. But still, that number is a big number for us. I mean, we have granted numbers in that range. We have granted numbers that are higher than that. But usually it's in circumstances where we have limitations on the property due to wetlands, due to other circumstances, usually due to wetlands. Or FEMA, the house being raised because FEMA elevation and flooding issues. So there are all these considerations. The fact that the neighbors don't object is a consideration as well. But I do want to ask, we're talking about pyramid relief, want to ask about ceiling heights, because we do ask about that when we are asked for pyramid relief beyond kind of a minimum amount. Do we know what the ceiling heights are?
So the ceiling heights that are proposed there are the same ceiling heights we have right now, because we're not taking the whole house down, we're just adding on to what is there.
Okay.
So they vary in different places, 9 and 8 feet, basically.
Okay.
Okay, nothing
But
like
it's-
12 feet or
No.
anything.
Yeah, nothing, nothing.
Nine
much.
and
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
basically what is there, because the main house
Matching.
is staying there, we're just
Adding on.
internalizing current
Yeah.
decking,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. And
I would
another,
add that the total building height is unchanged in
Yeah.
this plan.
And
Okay.
what's that again?
It's below,
I think you said like around 29 feet, I think.
yeah, I don't recall, we can get you that number, but
Okay.
I think the height itself
But
is
the
within,
roof line is
is
the same
conforming.
height.
Right, right.
It's under 32.
Correct.
whatever.
It's
I recall that it was conforming. I
Yeah,
don't remember
yeah.
the exact number.
Okay.
Yeah, and really, it's because the existing residence is towards, I don't know whether,
Western.
which, I think it's the western side, that basically kind of creates the issue. That really creates the issue, but,
Plus you've got two
Yeah.
streets
yeah,
And water, which is great.
and
but
water.
yeah, yeah. But the
Three
pyramid.
front yards.
Right, but
front
the
yards.
pyramid is all about where, where the structure is located. And so if it's nearer to a
Yeah,
property line,
that's
then it being centered. And also, sometimes we have wetlands here, sometimes we have issues with the shape and the way in which the structure is already developed. Here, this is the existing residence that was put up before these applicants purchased the property. So they don't want to start from scratch, they want to, try to they're adding to their existing residence. So all these factors weigh into why this is what they're proposing. And so, it is not an insignificant amount of pyramid relief, but on the other hand, these are all the factors that weigh into why this is where they are. Another thing I just want to mention is Jim had mentioned about the height and about how it was 6 feet above what FEMA would require. So they're well above FEMA requirements as opposed to being, if they were right at 2 feet above,
Probably would need pyramid then.
they very well might not need pyramid
Provided
at all.
those calculations as well.
Right, right. So that's another factor, and we actually want people to raise houses to protect them from flooding issues. So this is, well, it generates a lot of the pyramid relief. This is another consideration. So, anyway, so those are my thoughts. I'm not sure about
No, I
the rest
agree
of the
with you,
board.
Adam. I agree with you. All the
It
analysis.
doesn't
Yeah.
appear like, from looking at Google Maps, and I did not go to the property, so I have to say that, but it
I
doesn't
did.
appear like many of the other waterfront properties down there have this type of height and pyramid relief. Many of them look to be single level until you get down to, what is it, number 11, which is the tile roof one, or is that?
So there's only one house that is on single level, it's number
So,
7 is single level, all the others are 2-story,
Okay,
but they're not up on as high as ours for
Right.
some reason.
Yeah.
Whenever ours was
number
done.
9 was raised.
oh, okay, probably after the Google
Correct.
map photos, yeah.
Okay, okay. I do want to go back to, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I
Yeah.
mean, it just appears that this is going to be kind of an advancement in the height and the build and the pyramid in this area of town, but it's happening all over town,
I just want to go back to the pool and the deck. So these are, according to the survey we have, proposed raised pool to replace existing insane footprint. So there was an in-ground swimming pool that was proposed as being replaced.
So it's there right now.
Okay.
It's sitting in, and so in order to,
Okay.
it needs to be dewatered, basically.
Okay,
So it would mean lifting it out of the water, which conservation loves, right? I mean, that's basically, the last thing we want is the pool sitting in the bay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's basically what we'd be doing, is lifting it out, but in the exact same footprint.
Everybody's converted to saltwater pools now.
Yeah, exactly.
that too.
Marty Shea was quite
Happy with that.
happy with this.
Okay, good. But the other thing I just want to kind of clarify for the record, there was a 1986 variance for a pool, and then at some point the pool went in. I don't know whether it was consistent or inconsistent with the 1986 variance, but I figured I'd ask.
We don't know, because we bought the house later.
If you, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the
No.
information on the
I don't know.
GIS, the survey that is associated with the permit shows what was, what the variance is granted for. But
Okay.
the next as-built survey that was available on the GIS shows what is there now.
Okay, so
And
basically
it seems that
yeah.
the CO issued for that wrong configuration.
I see. So the CO was issued in error, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's not the first time and won't be the last.
We didn't know about that older variance until this board brought it to our attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, just trying to understand kind of how that all came about. Okay.
And all of that was done by somebody other than my client.
Right. No, I understand that too. Yeah, okay. All right. We did have the comments from the building department, Jim, or have you seen them?
Yes, and in my own remarks, I kind of addressed the main issues that he raised already, I think.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure that those are fully addressed.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the board?
Nope.
Is there anyone who's here in the audience in the boardroom this evening who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is the application of, sorry, I have a little trouble reading it, Roden and Vieira for property located at 1 Seatuck Lane in Remsenburg. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which is for property located at 1 Seatuck Lane in Remsenburg?
No hands.
No hands, okay, all right. If not, I will move that we close the application this evening for all purposes, except for written submissions. The deadline for written submissions is end of business on March 3rd, and we will have a decision ready at our March 16th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for being here. Have a good rest of your night.
Good night.
Thank you very much for your attention. Talk to you all soon.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Case number 8, Sarah Birmingham, 67 Inlet Road West in Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-176-1-11. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for the proposed detached garage on a non-conforming lot. 1, Section 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory front yard setback, Boathouse Road, of 14.5 feet where 50 feet is required. 2, lot coverage of 24.13%, 24.13%, where 20% is required. 3, Section 330-84D Pyramid Height Law, for an encroachment of 32 cubic feet. And 4, Section 330-77D, maximum rear yard coverage of 25.4%, where 20% is required, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction. We'll pass it to Mike.
Okay, looks like someone's here on Zoom in connection with the application. Okay, good evening. Just want to make sure we can see you. Hi, okay, we can hear you and we can see you. Okay, unless you're an attorney, I just have to swear you in. So if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Michelle Wagner Nebbia, architect, 57 Rollstone Avenue, West Sayville, New York, 11796.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can tell us about the application.
Okay. This property is an old non-conforming lot. It's in zone R20. The lot area is 10,556 square feet. It's also a corner lot, and it's narrow. So it's a very challenging lot to work with. It would appear that the proposed 24.13% lot coverage that we're proposing is relatively high for the area. But this lot and the adjacent lots to the east and the north, it's a cluster of 3 lots in this immediate area that are much smaller than most of the lots. So actually, we're looking to conform to this little cluster of small lots and to do something that's consistent with them. So the adjacent property to the north, which is also a property I'm working on, is also a small lot, and they have an existing lot coverage of 24%. So in doing this, I was trying to keep it consistent with these smaller adjacent properties. Also, the house is a cottage. It's recently had some additions done to it. but everything is one story, and the house is very short. The house is only 16 feet from grade to the ridge. So even though it has a 24% proposed lot coverage, the perceived density of this lot when you drive by is very small compared to some of the adjacent homes in the area, like, where is it? 61 Inlet Road is a two-story home. They have about a 5,000 cubic foot pyramid encroachment. This is old non-conforming. And 63 Inlet Road is about 9,500 cubic feet of pyramid encroachment. So these are old narrow lots with big homes, and so what we're proposing is much smaller looking as far as the density of the property than a lot of the other properties in the area. So this is really mostly for a garage. We're going to encroach, a proposed encroachment into the pyramid of only 32 cubic feet. It's just the tip of the gable roof. That end of the property is only about 47 feet wide, and to try to get a two-car garage in there was very challenging. I turned the roof so that most of the roof is under the pyramid. Also, the property to the north, that house has a very small side yard, which is next to the garage. So I was trying to not put, I was trying to keep this roof line away from him as much as possible. And also, I'm working on the lot to the north also. It's a pending application before this board. And the section of the house that is right next to the proposed garage is actually going to be converted to a garage. There's bedrooms there right now. That property does not have a garage, and so this proposed detached garage is gonna be right next to the neighbor's garage after their project is all done. So I thought this was the most appropriate place to put it. The front yard setback is proposed of only 14.5 feet. The house has an existing front yard setback of 9.6, and Roadhouse Road there's about 20 feet from the property line to the actual edge of pavement. So even though it only has a 14.5 foot front yard setback, there's like 35 feet from the proposed garage to the edge of the road, which is going to give them a lot of off-street parking, which is something that the property is severely lacking. There's also, the house has a crawl space. It has almost no attic. There's no place to store things on the property. There is a small shed in the backyard, which we're proposing to take down and replace that with a two-car garage, storage for vehicles and bicycles and kayaks and all the other things that people have down there. In the other variances for the rear yard coverage of 25.4% instead of 20%, which actually is not, don't consider to be that a major variance because of the challenges that this property has. And in light of these facts, it's my opinion that these variances are the minimum required to allow the owner to have this desperately needed two-car garage and storage space. And these variances are not substantial for the character of the area, and if granted, will not create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. That's it.
Okay, all right. All right, of the relief that's being requested, in my view, the pyramid relief is minimal, absolutely minimal. The rear yard lot coverage relief we see from time to time. The only concern that I have is the accessory front yard setback to 14.5 feet for the detached garage, and that having an impact, any impact on the neighbor. Have we heard from the neighbor or neighbors?
Well, the neighbor to the north, which is the one that is most impacted by this, is Robert and Gretchen Savage, and they're also my clients. I've been working with them for 2 years on their project because they're the waterfront lot, and that lot has been a lot of work. We're very close to getting it over the finish line. So, Robert and Gretchen are fully aware of what Sarah would like to do with her property and the garage, and they have never voiced any concerns about this garage at all. They understand the challenges that she has, and that there's no place else to put it on the property, and that she does desperately need the storage.
Yep, yep. Well, there's a lot going on the lot. It is quite a survey to look at.
There is.
It is.
What's the intent of upstairs and the garage? It looked like it could be an office or something. Would you?
No, it's storage. No, it's proposed to be storage.
Okay.
Because the house has a crawl space and no attic, there's really nowhere to put anything.
And you're gonna lose that,
Primarily the reason for having that extra space.
you're gonna remove that pretty awesome tree on the property. I guess that's where the garage goes, is that right?
Yes, unfortunately,
Okay.
yes.
I was there
But
today
it's a
and,
very big tree. It could be actually approaching the end of its life, maybe 80 years.
yeah,
I don't know how old it is, but it's pretty old.
it's pretty epic looking and I was, but that's not in our purview, you know? But I was there today and this actually, looks like it makes sense to me from the perspective of visiting the property and kind of going up and down and scaling it all out. But I also understand your point, Mr. Chairman, that that is gonna be close to the other neighbor, but I don't have a problem with it. Is there gonna be any screening between the neighbors? I don't see any on this survey here.
No, we did receive a permit, wetlands permit from environmental, and the plantings were not, I don't think that was required by that department. It would have been added to my site plan if it was.
Well, but sometimes we ask for screening.
No, but if they need a wetlands permit,
Okay.
they might have special,
I
Marty
understand.
may have special
I
vegetation
understand.
that he wants.
Right,
He
right.
knows what kind of plants he wants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just get clarification, the 14.5 feet is set back from the road? I mean, it's the front yard. I mean, you've got two roads that you're dealing with here. It's very narrow, and the 14 feet, I mean, I don't see how you can put something in here that's not gonna affect, it is not gonna be like, requiring setback relief. I mean, it just doesn't seem like there's any space for it, Michael.
Yeah, from where the property line
Yeah,
goes.
yeah,
Again,
and- yeah.
it's another situation where there's a lot of there's significant property beyond the property line between
Right.
there and the actual roads.
Right, which is what you were talking about before,
Mm.
but, so.
Yeah, again, I was there today
Yeah.
and I didn't have a problem with it.
It doesn't look like it's
I've been down there.
an issue for me.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Is there anyone who is in the boardroom this evening who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Birmingham? This is for property located at 67 Inlet Road West in Hampton Bays. Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 67 Inlet Road West in Hampton Bays? If you are waiting to be heard, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No hands, okay. If not, Mike, it's yours.
Okay, are we owed anything from the notes or anything? No?
Maybe just something from the town board, right?
I think we received it already.
Nope, then no.
Yeah, I think, okay. All right, so we'll close this public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions until March 3rd with a decision on March 16th.
Second,
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next is case number 10, 111 Schwenks LLC, located at 111 Schwenks Road, Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-100-1-82.1.
borrow one of those in case, I'll be doing so I have it.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. Brian Locascio with the Adam Miller Group, attorney for the applicant. I was before you on January 19th, where the applicant is proposing an 80 square foot addition to his kitchen. The house is currently pre-existing non-conforming with respect to the rear yard, located 59.4 feet. We are proposing to increase that non-conforming by 5 feet to 54.4 feet. As you may recall, when we were going through Marjorie's comments, there were some concerns, but the applicant had not yet addressed the conditions of his 2021 variance for the proposed garage that this board granted. So I went back to the property owner with that. We had the property line staked, and the fence was relocated out of the town right of way. He looked into having the hedging located, but I submitted a letter, and his landscaper determined that if it's relocated now, it likely would not survive the rest of the winter. So it seemed rather wasteful to do that now when it's already a condition of the variance for the garage, which we do plan to implement the scope of this work, and he can't benefit from this relief without addressing that concern.
Okay.
So I would request that we just allow that condition to carry over, and once a building permit is issued, and as conditioned, if you do are so inclined to grant this relief, that we would relocate or remove the hedge out of the town right of way. I provided photos of the fence. You can see the pink stakes, and the fence is behind, well off the town right of way.
Okay, but moving the hedge will allow it to be done in a time of year when it would survive being moved.
Yeah, and it has to be done either
Yeah.
way if we, to.
Yeah, in the fall or
To have the
spring
bench,
or-
exactly, yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
It's just
okay.
not appropriate now, and it's,
Okay.
I think the estimate was about $15,000 for that work to be done, and it just seemed wasteful to kill off these hedges and that money for no,
Yeah.
this is an existing condition up and down the street. I know it can't be there, and you don't have the ability to grant that relief, but
Mhm.
it's not like, we're the only property on this road that creates this condition.
Okay.
So it's been this way.
Okay.
I'm satisfied with that, Brian,
Yeah,
thank you.
of course. And, the applicant did act in good faith. He hired the surveyor, he spent money to relocate the fence, and so.
Yep.
he's-
Okay, so then he's prepared to deal with the issue
Yep.
in the near future?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And I will, the survey I provided to you here, it doesn't show the fence being relocated yet, because I wanted to just discuss this with you all and make sure we were comfortable with this approach.
Yep.
And I would offer that I could submit that as a written submission, the fence being relocated on the survey, and an application that the hedge would be removed or relocated, so there is no confusion.
Yep,
And
okay.
the other point was the AC and the outdoor shower located behind the pool house.
Mhm.
As I stated, when the client purchased it in, I believe, 2020, he did receive an updated certificate of occupancy. That survey from 2020 showed the shower and AC in that existing location. It wasn't specifically called out on the certificate of occupancy, but he, buying this property, believed, for good reasons, that it was legal.
Mhm.
So we are then asking and again, this was something we discussed when I was before you in 2021 for the garage. I know we had it back and forth on it, but it wasn't specifically called out in the variance. It was referenced in the comments, but there was no relief granted. So I would ask the board to formally legalize the shower and AC unit. And the survey locates those, so you have the distances from the property line.
What are they? I don't have
It's the shower is 2.6 feet, and the AC unit is 3.5 feet. It's tight, and if you go there, there's a retaining wall, mature hedging of the neighbor, that it's up against the back of a garage, so it's really a screened in, it doesn't impact anyone, and it's been there, from what I can see, for 10, 20 years, looking back on surveys at the town file. So, and that's.
And that's it?
Any other
So-
questions?
So this is an outdoor shower
It's an outdoor shower,
Yes,
it's
yes.
seasonally used,
Okay,
correct.
but it's very close to the property line?
It's very close to the property line, as is this pre-existing structure that was converted into a pool house.
Okay.
And it's an undersized lot. These are pre-existing structures that's kind of, we're kind of stuck with what's there, so.
Okay. What would be the cost to remove or move to conforming location, particularly the outdoor shower? Because it's very close to the property line.
I don't know what the cost would be, but I don't know if there would be I can look into that, I don't know what the cost would be.
Yeah,
It's
Have
helpful
an
to
outdoor
have it
shower
in the
2 feet
file.
away
Yep.
from the property
Okay.
line?
It's helpful
I
to
can
have
get,
it
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
That's a hard
It's, how
ask.
long's it been there?
I mean, it was there on the 2020 CO, it was on the survey, and, I mean, I have,
And none of the neighbors have complained yet?
none of the neighbors have complained, so in 2014, when the accessory structure was converted, there was a survey showing, the pool house. And in, that might be the one I have, and this is, I believe there was a 2009 survey as well that also showed, the outdoor shower.
Yeah.
So it's been there for almost 20 years at least on surveys that are associated with the permits and COs that this town has issued.
Okay. So I'm only asking the question because it's so close to a property line, and it would seem to me to be something that could impact a neighbor having it so close.
Neighbor
but-
has not responded.
No, they,
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
no,
Neighbor's
they
not
haven't.
complained in
and-
20 years.
And again,
Right,
we
right.
submitted photos on the last go-around that show the wall and the hedging. and
Herb
kind
used
of
to
how
love,
spring
love
was.
outdoor showers, it's his like favorite thing.
Right, right.
I actually love them also.
I love my outdoor shower.
Yes.
Especially in the summer, yeah.
Yeah, not
Got
now,
in the
but.
shower under the stars.
It would be nice if we could just continue to ignore it, but, we can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you're asking for a recognition?
I would like, yes, and of course we'll have
In-
to legalize them with part of our permits, but I would like to get the relief acknowledged as part of this decision for the shower and the AC unit.
Okay, so, are we good with doing that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I have no problem. Mike?
I'm agnostic.
He's
Mike, come on.
agnostic.
Helen, do you have an opinion on this one?
No?
Okay.
Brian, as long as you promise to never come back and use it as precedent for any of your
Right.
other properties nearby.
Exactly.
2.5 feet rule's not
I
gonna
mean, if
fly.
it was on a 2009 survey, that
I mean, there's at
was-
least
I mean,
three
it
surveys on file
seems-
with the town where
Yeah, I mean, it seems like hard to like,
No code violations at all
Yeah.
there.
there are no
Yeah.
code violations.
No, the AC is an AC, it's a need, but an outdoor shower, one can argue the benefits of it. Very close to a property line. But in any case, okay, well, we'll have to take that into consideration. There are also 2 board members who aren't here this evening, who I'm
Yep.
sure will review the tape and participate, so, okay.
Otherwise, I'd request, we close the hearing and I can submit the revised survey as I noted, addressing all of Marjorie's comments
Yeah, okay,
and
okay, very good. All right, is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is 111 Swinks LLC for property located at 111 Swinks Road in Watermill? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which is again,
Yes.
there is, okay.
Uh-oh.
And I have to use the bathroom, so I'm gonna let,
I'll
one
listen, we'll all
one of you
listen.
take over for
Okay.
a
might be the
minute.
property owner who may not actually have anything to say. You may have just.
It's a woman.
Okay.
Okay, there's not
okay.
then.
Yes. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Hi, sorry, pardon the hairdo.
That's okay.
I was
So-
working
So,
alongside.
so I just have to swear you in unless you're an attorney.
Yep, not an attorney.
Okay, if you can state your name and address.
Sure, Marina Illich, I actually live in California, 910 Illinois Way, Palo Alto.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I need Maria to spell her last name.
Just need you to spell your last name for the record?
Sure, it's Illich, Illich.
Okay, very good. And I'm gonna run out, I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Sure.
I'm gonna let Susan take over for a minute.
Okay, Maureen, go ahead.
Marina, yeah, I just wanted to check in because I'm here on behalf of my mother, Alexa Illich, who lives at 105 Schranks Road, which is the property to the south of 111. And this doesn't concern the topics we were just discussing, but it concerns the building of the garage, so I don't know if that's the topic under discussion here. And if so, I have a comment, and if not, I'll come back when that's to be discussed.
That actually was discussed in 2021, and as a condition of that variance, we actually have to propose screening along your mother's property line.
Uh-huh.
Which will be done as part of this?
Okay, sure. She sent a letter into the town a few weeks ago just to raise a concern around the height, the height differential between where the garage will be built and her driveway, and just some concerns around drainage into her driveway. And the letter, I believe she got a letter from the council at 111 just a few weeks prior to your last meeting. So it was in response to that letter that she submitted her own letter.
Do we have the letter? You have it marked down, it says, 1:30, received letter from neighbor Alexa Illich.
Right.
Yep, we have the letter.
Oh, okay, great. I just wanted to know if there was any comment on that or anything. She's too old to attend Zoom, so I'm just here on her behalf.
I didn't receive the letter, but I have no comment because we're not here with respect to the garage. That variance has already been granted. And we'll have to address all necessary drainage as part of the, the town's review for a building permit.
So amplify that a little bit for Marianne.
There's a required stormwater drainage for any proposed roof structures in the town of Southampton that the town engineer would review. So as a condition of any building permit being issued, we'd have to demonstrate that we would meet that requirement.
Okay, great.
So-
Well, then I guess, I've never done this before, folks, so I'm totally agreeing to this. So I just wanted
okay.
to bring it up and just make sure that the letter had been received and that the board had been able to review it. And that's great to hear that, any permit that gets granted takes that into account. It's a pretty steep differential. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like 10 feet over not a long distance. So it just seems like structurally that's gonna require some special drainage so that it doesn't come down into her driveway. And I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
And you brought it to Brian's attention, so that's good.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll let the applicant know. I don't think he has any intention of
Running the water off.
running water off on your client's property,
Right.
which is located on our property via an easement. But it's noted, and we certainly did everything we could in that application to address any impacts the garage would have on your client's adequate screening and the like. And we actually located it.
Her mom.
Her mother,
Her
sorry.
mom, yeah.
And we actually located it where it is, so it's offset from her house, because your mother's house is set back further from the garage, and that was actually one of the factors that led to the location. So it wasn't gonna be right in your mother's view site. But
Okay, great. Well,
duly
I
noted,
just
though,
wanted-
I'll make sure the client gets a copy of that letter and that he's aware.
That would be so great.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, if the board could just, or whoever the permitting, board is, just to make sure they take that into consideration.
Yeah, the
Thank you
building
all.
department will do that while they're reviewing the permit. Before they issue it, they'll address that to make sure that that's,
And would they get a copy of the letter? Is that the process or not?
No. Nope.
They won't, but they'll have to post the building permit at the property when the construction is done. So if you feel like anything is not proper, your mother would have every right to review that building permit and address any concerns that you think may not be, compliant.
Okay.
And in addition, and when say address, what Brian is, I guess, saying is that if your mom thinks that something is, what was constructed, that it wasn't pursuant to the building permit, the remedy would be to contact code enforcement.
Okay, great.
Okay, in the town.
All right, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
First name, I had Marie.
Yes. We just wanted to ask if you could confirm your first name for our record?
Yes, it's Marina, so Marina, and the last name is Illich, Illich.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye now.
All right. Is there anyone else who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application?
That is nice.
That's her.
Is it up?
Yeah. Nobody else? Okay. If not, John has the lead on the application, but he's not here this evening, so I would move that we close this application, except for written submissions. The deadline for written submissions will be end of business on March 3rd, and we will have a decision ready at our March 16th meeting.
second.
And if for any reason I can't get you that survey in time, I'll
Yep.
let Candace know.
Just
so
let
you
Candace
have
know, and then
adequate
we'll
notice. Yep.
put it to the next date. Okay, Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all as always.
Thank
Have a great night. Good
You
seeing
too.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Moving right along.
Case
Yeah.
number 11, River Rock Structured Capital LLC, 175 Mohawk Avenue LLC, etc. are applicants. This is for property at 168 Crescent Avenue in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-115-1-8.
You made it.
You made
Okay.
it.
Oh, we're not done.
All right.
We made it.
Actually, you said have a longer evening, I know. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Joan McGivern from Toomey Latham J. Kelly Dubin and Quattrero, representing the owners of 4 properties that are adjacent to the property at issue. Just to review, we're raising the issue as to how to calculate the town's GFA cap. and it's an issue that we believe the board has not explicitly addressed before. At the last hearing, a question was raised as to whether a single lot could include more than one legal dwelling, and the answer is yes. The code expressly permits carriage houses and accessory apartments to be accessory dwellings on a single lot. So you can have two dwellings on a single lot. In other words, we submit that the GFA of both dwellings count towards the town's cap of the 15,000 square feet. And that takes me to the code. The code refers to one-family detached dwellings, plural. It doesn't say one-family detached dwelling, and it says one-family detached dwelling and two-family detached dwellings. It doesn't say or, it says and it's in the plural. Had the code intended to exclude carriage houses from the 15,000 foot cap, the drafters could have done so easily, but they didn't. The carriage house law was enacted in 2007, and the second cap that the town enacted of 15,000 square feet was enacted in 2009. So the drafters had an opportunity to make an exception for carriage houses, but they didn't. Other neighboring towns and villages have similarly enacted caps in response to overdevelopment, increasing size and massing of dwellings, and they uniformly treat the cap as cumulative if there are two dwellings on one lot, and that includes the village of East Hampton, the village of Sag Harbor, the village of Sagaponic, the town of Southold just recently, and the town of East Hampton. And what all these legislative enactments have in common is, with the town of Southampton, is that they're all reflecting the goal of using a GFA cap as a tool to control overdevelopment. So in construing the legislation, which we submit you haven't explicitly construed yet, you have to consider the evil or the mischief that was trying to be remedied, which was overdevelopment. To construe it as applying to only one principal dwelling and ignoring the second dwelling would have an open-ended potential of having two dwellings, each measuring up to 15,000 square feet, which clearly was not intended. And as I said before, carriage houses were not explicitly exempted from this 15,000 square foot cap.
Despite the fact that the town code says you can only have a carriage house at 3,500 square feet?
3,000.
Okay, 3,000 then. I mean,
but
then
the
how
carriage house-
how could you possibly have a carriage house at 15,000 square feet? If it's limited to 3,000?
Well, then you're saying that you can have up to 18,000 square feet of habitable space on property.
That's what this ZBA said in the prior variance. It wasn't 18,000, it was 14,900 plus the carriage house.
We disagree with that, but.
Absolutely, and that's
yes.
why there's litigation. I mean, and this is kind of what we talked about the last time. I understand that you are not satisfied that the ZBA decision didn't flesh this out, but it was decided. There's a 14,000 square foot house and however big the carriage house is, so this has been decided.
And that means that an issue of res judicata argument may apply to this argument.
We believe there are no findings or legal rulings on this issue before the Supreme Court or before the Appellate Division, Second Department, and there are a couple answers to that. One is that the board explicitly did not rule on the issue in its February 2021 issue due to the fact the owner had withdrawn its variance request, and it dropped a footnote to that effect saying it wasn't deciding that because it had been withdrawn.
I disagree, because that footnote said that the house would comply with the 15,000 square foot max.
And
which, whether or not it does, it also allows to have the carriage house to be the size that it is. I mean, I want you to make your record. I'm just saying you can't say that the town code allows a 15,000 square foot carriage house, because it doesn't.
Counsel for the owner has asserted that the doctrines of res judicata and collateral estoppel apply, and we respectfully disagree. It's well settled that the doctrine of res judicata applies only to matters that have been finally adjudicated on the merits, and as owner's counsel well knows, the Supreme Court dismissed the Article 78 petition as moot. A dismissal for mootness is not an adjudication on the merits. As counsel for the board and counsel for the property owner argue, by implication, the board has indirectly decided this issue. But again, we don't believe that the board has explicitly said you can have 17,000 square feet on property without an explicit variance to that effect. It's for that reason that we had submitted the survey of a dozen or so carriage house cases to the board. That was Exhibit 1 to our January 12th letter. And in that survey, the average cumulative GFA in these cases, that is the GFA of the principal dwelling and the carriage house, were added up and came to 8,848 square feet, which is well below the 15,000 square foot cap. So in those cases, the board did not have to grapple with this issue. We believe the board has an opportunity to decide this issue now, especially because we believe this will set a negative precedent, particularly with property that's approximately 1/3 the size needed for a carriage house to begin with. We believe it's timely now because the building inspector has implicitly decided the issue by issuing the CO. And it's our position that the CO is not in compliance. The board is not precluded from enforcing the zoning laws or clarifying its position due to the doctrine of collateral estoppel, which can not be evoked against a government agency to preclude it from performing its statutorily authorized duties, including enforcing the zoning law. Town Law 267A12 authorizes any member of this board to make a motion for a rehearing or a review of any order, decision, or determination of the board. This authority is discretionary and one that can be exercised in the absence of changed circumstances or facts. Thus, any member having doubts as to whether the calculation of the town's GFA has been properly decided or explicitly decided, or they implicitly think they granted a variance that they didn't intend to grant, you can make a motion for a rehearing on this.
And what are the new facts or the new circumstances?
It's discretionary and can be exercised in the absence of changed circumstances or facts. It's Town Law 267A12. Moreover, in this case, we believe there's no prejudice to the owner as it completed the carriage house and actually had framed, roofed, and sheathed the main dwelling in the fall of 2019, all before it came before the board for 12 variances, and also all before it went to the building inspector under the carriage house law. The carriage house law actually says that you're supposed to go to the building inspector to ask in what way you qualify, and it's a step that was entirely skipped because the owner had built everything before it sought variance relief, and trying to shorten this up, I'm so sorry. So in short, without question, the owner undertook the risk of building this carriage house without seeking variances first, and it undertook the risk that the variances could be denied, and it also undertook the risk of an ex post facto request to legalize what it built. Now I want to address whether it's 15,000 square feet, the principal dwelling. Andrew Zaro, the owner's principal, has asserted that the primary dwelling is below 15,000 square feet. we can only go on what's publicly available and what we've observed. The town's tax assessor lists the property alone, the primary dwelling alone, at 16,739 square feet. For all new construction, the assessor obtains this information from the building department. So it's not as if the assessor pulled this out of thin air. We also believe there are some discrepancies in what plans the CO was actually issued under. In the file that was reviewed, there's a August 21, 2018 plan that bears a stamp approved by M. Rizzolo, and a statement, "This set reflects finished floor plans as built." That was in 2018, listing the property at 14,996 square feet. However, there's a copy of a July 2nd, 2019 plan that are referred to in the ZBA proceeding that are stamped as built plans showing the property at 16,108.62 square feet. Which is, again, discrepant with what the town tax assessor has. But all of this points to there being a clear conflict in what the square footage may be. Chairman Grossman had proposed that maybe a licensed professional take a look at this. And in that regard, we took a look at the New York State Building Code as to patios and sunrooms, and it would appear to us, although we're not licensed engineers, that some of what Zarro is saying does not necessarily jive with what the New York Building Code states. And so with all due respect, we're not sure that the enclosed dining area counts, does not count towards habitable space.
But that's your proof that the house exceeds 15,000 square feet?
That the town tax assessor has listed it that way based on information from the building department, and that the town ZBA decision referred to a July 2nd, 2019 plan.
That was what the variances were granted pursuant to those plans?
Yes, and it was as built, showing 16,108.62 square feet.
Okay, and it probably says they have to comply. I mean, the ZBA plans also showed the tennis court as having non-conforming setbacks, right? And that ZBA decision said this decision is conditioned upon the tennis court complying. Okay.
Sorry, what was your point?
My point is that, I mean, the applicant here bears the burden of showing to you guys that this building permit needs to be revoked. So I'm asking her what her proof is, and you know, I mean, you can't, Adam says it all the time, like, you need a licensed professional to show you something. You can't just say, look, you know,
Well,
this is
we don't-
confusing and this is confusing.
We don't own the property.
I know
so-
you don't, but that's, the burden is on you to show
Right,
these
so
things. And
we're basing it on publicly
I got
available
that, yes,
information.
I got that. The
Information
assessor's
that was in the
office.
ZBA decision, and,
Yeah.
based on our reading of the building code, it doesn't appear to comply.
Okay.
Unlike the application we had the last meeting where, I asked, I think it was Daphne had, a theory about, a number and a calculation, and I said, well, we need it from somebody in the business. I mean, that's typically what we rely upon, but.
You're
yeah.
making comment about a survey that was referenced in the ZBA.
Yes, the ZBA decision for this matter granted variances and denied variances, and it, you know, normally the ZBA says, go out and fix your survey and bring it back, and for this one, I believe that some of it was like, you gotta comply, you know, like it may show
Actually,
something that is non-conforming.
I
Yeah.
don't mean to defer, but it granted 9 variances and the applicant withdrew 3. And there were no variances denied.
I think the variances for the board denied, I mean, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, but in any case, sometimes we'll have, for example, a survey that'll have a structure on it, because normally you match the survey to the decision. But sometimes the survey will say, well, this fence is to be fences that are over a property line or non-conforming, or to be removed, just as an example.
You know, but absolutely, the variances for the house exceeding 15,000 square feet were removed. I mean, that the house is supposed to be under 15,000 square feet.
Right.
I thought it was
And-
14.9 something, wasn't it?
That's what I'm saying, yes,
Yeah.
because
Yes, yeah.
you know, they.
That's
They
what
were
Zarro
arguing over a
asserts.
closed porch.
That's what Zarro asserts in his affidavit, but the survey we're going off of does not reflect that.
Okay.
And there were 7 pools and jacuzzi spas approved.
What's the date of that decision?
7 pools.
The ZBA decision?
February 4th, 2021. But again, we believe that the way in which the cap is being interpreted should be explicitly addressed by the board, because it's at variance with the way neighboring towns are doing it.
And I will advise you that not to reopen that. It doesn't matter how other towns are interpreting their codes.
And it's at variance with how the code is written. And the timing of the code, because the carriage house variances were adopted in 2007, and the additional cap was adopted in 2009.
I
And
understand what you're
carriage
saying.
houses were not carved out of that 15,000 cap.
I understand what you're saying. The
Yeah,
board
and-
granted variances for this size carriage house and this size house.
Right. And Joan, we want you to be able to make your case, and we're
Yeah.
listening to you. It's not that we're not,
No,
but it's, you know.
that's what advocacy is about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I understand.
Yep. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. Good evening.
Last but not least.
Yeah, hope we entertained up until now. Just, I'm going to state your name. I know you previously gave testimony.
Sure.
Just state your name for the
My
record.
name is Chris Marin with the firm Ruskin, Moscow, Foltashek in Uniondale, New York. And I'm appearing on behalf of the property owner, River Rock.
Okay.
I'd like to just go through some of the statements that were made in their letter, and again, stated again this evening, which I believe are at best inaccurate. They rely on the fact that other villages in the area accumulate the two dwellings. That's because their code specifically says that they're supposed to do that. I have copies of the Village of East Hampton's code, the Village of, what is it? The Village of East Hampton and the Village of Sag Harbor. They both have specific provisions addressing this issue that say you are to aggregate the two structures for the square footage limit. The town of Southampton's code does not have that provision. If the town of Southampton's board decides that they want to include that provision in the code, that's what they would have to do. It's not up to this board to amend or supplement the town code. So I think the argument that other villages are doing it makes my point. They do it because the statute says to do it, and the town of Southampton's code does not say to do that.
She's saying it's intentionally left out.
Oh, it's intentionally or not, it's for the town board to make that determination. And without that provision in the town code, there's really no basis for this board to do that. In addition, she raised, she cites some provisions of the town code that talks about, a carriage house being a dwelling. But interestingly, the code refers to the carriage house or the apartment as accessory dwellings and secondary dwellings, where the limitation of 15,000 square feet applies to one family detached dwellings, not accessory, not secondary. It says that 15,000 only applies to one and two family assessed dwellings. So that even under her interpretation of the code, it doesn't apply to the accessory. Again, if they wanted to do it, they would state it in the code. The other issue that she claims that a municipality cannot be collaterally estopped, is accurate. However, she's not a municipality. Her client's not a municipality. If the building department came in and brought a code violation against my client, saying you can't, your building doesn't comply, that's one thing. And we would not be able to say you're collaterally stopped from saying that. But when a private citizen, a neighboring property owner, does it, absolutely, res judicata and collateral estoppel apply, as the cases I cited in my letter. And just out of a matter of fairness, I mean, even though I think legally is precluded, my client came to this board, asked for variances, including variances for the carriage house and the main house. It was clear that the carriage house and the main house were over 15,000 square feet. It was the 14,900, and then the other is like 1,600 or 1,700. So on its face, the variance request shows it was over 15,000 square feet. This board granted the appropriate variances. My client then put the work into it to comply with those variances. 2 years, and then was issued a certificate of occupancy from the building department. 2 years later, they're coming and say, well, you know, this shouldn't have been granted this way because the 15,000 square feet should apply to both structures. They didn't raise it in the variance request or in opposition to the variance request, which they hotly contested. I'm not sure which members of the board were here, but
Well, they did raise it.
Oh, they did raise it, and they definitely raised it in the Article 78.
Yeah.
I cite the provision, they specifically said you should consider both of them in it, and that was dismissed. And another.
And Mike, you were here. Yeah.
You two were here.
Yeah,
Us-
yeah.
We were.
We weren't here.
Right,
Keith
right,
was here, I'm
right.
sure.
And Helen was here.
And Helen.
And Ellen.
And
Yeah.
then she, you know, another, it concerns me because she makes a statement, a dismissal for mootness is not an adjudication on the merits. And then she cites cases, and those cases have nothing to do with mootness. The case that she cites deals with standing, that a determination to dismiss a complaint because the plaintiff didn't have standing didn't preclude another plaintiff that did have standing from raising the same issue. So it's just not a proper citation, and I think there's, that just as a lawyer, that just concerns me, that someone is saying something that is, that's misleading. It's just clearly misleading. With regard to she talks about any one member of this board can request a rehearing of the prior application, but she leaves out the part that it has to be unanimous.
Mhm.
The board has to unanimously agree
To reopen.
To
yes.
reopen.
Yeah.
And that's just never mentioned. As for the plans, what happened, and I'm sure going back over the record of the prior proceeding, originally he was going to have a house with a variance request for over 16, it was about 16,000 square feet. He withdrew that because they changed the plans to go back to the original where the patio would not be considered part of the structure because it was gonna be open air and it was not, and it's weatherproof doors. Who has weatherproof doors within the interior of a house or hurricane-proof doors? So it doesn't, and even under the New York State Building Code, it doesn't qualify as part of habitable space. And you talk about an expert or someone coming in and making that determination, that happened. The building department. The building department came in, did an inspection, granted the CFO, and made a determination that it fit within the confines of the code. It's there, this is a little bit kind of strange because we're not an applicant, we're not seeking any relief, we've done everything proper, and it's there up for them to come in and say, no, this is the reason why, that this is violating, and come forward with a little bit of proof. It can't be I said, or I talked to something, or I believe, or I looked at the assessor's office. You have a building department. That's the building department's job. If there's a code enforcement issue, there's a code enforcement issue. It's not for this board to come in and make a determination whether or not there's a violation. This is only to assert an appeal from the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Here, the building department did what it's supposed to do. It did an inspection. There's no indication that they did anything wrong in making their determination that a C of O should be issued. And, you know, it's hard not to look at this in the context of what's been going on between these neighbors, between Mr. Stephen and Christina Schwartzman and Stuart and Louis Gross. They're not really sure why this has gotten to this part, but even at the last hearing, they made a contention that we have two driveways. And they showed a picture of the supposed two driveways, one of which was, it's a stockade fence with no hinge with grass growing. We've shown that in pictures that there was no violation, there was no two driveways. This was something they just made up. And just to do, I talked to my client as to why there's such vitriol between Mr. Schwartzman and the Gross and him, and he's really not sure why. But he's come before this board, he's gotten the variance, built his house, gotten it inspected, certificate of occupancies have been issued. There's no proof that he's done anything in violation of that process, and there's just no basis to revoke a certificate of occupancy. How drastic action that is, something that is a protected property interest. It's not a building permit. A building permit can be vacated, but a certificate of occupancy has protections. And absent any proof whatsoever, other than I talked to someone, there's just no basis to vacate or rescind a certificate of occupancy that's been issued. Again, we're not an applicant, we're not looking for any variances, we're just defending a process from an attack from a disgruntled neighbor who, quite frankly, has a lot of money and is willing, for whatever reason, to continue this on. And it wastes not only my client's time, your time, the town's professional staff, the town's attorney. They've commenced 3 separate CPLR, Article 78s, which have all been dismissed. They've then taken appeals from those Article 78s, all of which the town has to pay for their own counsel on those Article 78. Those appeals, they haven't even gone to perfect it. They've extended the time and time again. I was on a zoning board for 10 years in the town of North Hempstead. I've never seen anything like this. I've seen neighbors, like the woman who was concerned about drainage into her driveway, legitimately. This is just vindictive. I'm a bully. I'm gonna prosecute you on all these different things and make up things completely, like the two driveways. It's just like, I have to then go back to my client, because the first time I heard about it was at the last hearing, and she says, you have two driveways. And they're like, what? What are they talking about? And it's just, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. But regardless, there's no basis to revoke the certificate of occupancy. I will submit a writing with the issues, the legal issues that they try to raise in their papers. I assume I have to March 3rd is standard
Unless you need additional time.
No, March 3rd is fine.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions.
I don't
think
have any questions.
We're gonna take a look at everything both sides have submitted, and we will make a decision.
Great.
That's it. Appreciate both your time.
Thank you.
The part that I was looking for just for the board, because when I was saying this one was unusual, because even though Joan is right, the variances were granted, but what I was remembering was for the tennis court, the board had granted variances, but they had made them reduce the size to 55 by 110. And same thing, they had said that they were gonna comply with the square footage of the dwelling being under 15,000 square feet, and we had dropped that as a footnote. But so the decision didn't read like our typical one, because it basically said, The variances are granted for structures as shown in the site plan. However, and it did refer to the plans that Joan was talking about, 2019, but then it said, any revisions to the plans or surveys to show compliance with the town code and conditions of this decision will not require an amendment to this decision. So we knew, even when we said reduce the size of the tennis court, we knew that you couldn't base it on the plans that were in front of the building department or board because they had to comply. But it just saved everybody from having them come back and amend it, and so that was what I was looking for.
And did those plans get submitted? The
Did what
revised
plans get submitted?
They did, 'cause the building.
Well, they
department-
must have
The
been
building
submitted to the building
department.
Yeah, 'cause the
department.
building
Of
permit
course,
was
yeah.
issued.
Yeah, because that's how the way they issued the building
For the
permit. and
14,900 something, right?
Whatever it was.
it's whatever it was, and that's what Joan is taking issue with, because she's saying that wasn't built.
Yeah.
That wasn't built.
But it was
is what she
inspected and a C of O was issued.
Okay, all right. Okay, before we close, I just want to ask, is there anyone, there isn't anyone in the boardroom, is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which is River Rock Structure Capital LLC, for property located at 186 Crescent Avenue in Watermill? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No hands? Okay, very good. Thank you, Charlie. All right, well, if not, I'm going to move that we, Keith's the lead, but he's not here this evening. I'll move that we close this application, except for written submissions. The deadline for written submissions will be end of business on March 3rd, and we will have a decision ready on our March 16th meeting.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you both for being here.
Okay,
Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we have secret determinations. All right. let me find them. We have
And
one.
the litigation one is part of your decision that you had.
Yes, okay, very good. All right, so let's see in terms of the order of things.
This is what we
Resolution is
discussed last time
first.
with the 30,000?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so I have a secret resolution in connection with the application of Jacqueline Kress and 61 Bayview Drive LLC for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map number 932, 1, 23, and 27. Whereas this board coordinated secret review with the Southampton Town Planning Board, Suffolk County Department of Health Services, and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and is in receipt of a resolution adopted by the Southampton Town Planning Board on January 26, 2023, wherein they would like to assume lead agency over the proposed application. Now therefore be it resolved that the Southampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals hereby agrees that the Southampton Town Planning Board should assume lead agency status with regards to the application of 61 Bayview Drive LLC and Jacqueline Kress pursuant to 6 New York CRR Section 617.6B, and be it further resolved that this board directs that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to all involved agencies. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, next, I have
The resolution.
resolution to authorize settlement of litigation, so let me get to that. I did them out of order, oh well. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I have a resolution to authorize town attorney's office to sign a stipulation of settlement/agreement, whereas a litigation matter was brought by the Fraden Family Trust against 1240 Ocean LLC and the Zoning Board of Appeals and all in Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Suffolk, index number 616507 of 2022. And whereas such matters, having been duly considered, are resolved between the parties with an understanding that the hedgerow presently existing at and along the location of the retaining wall on the 1240 Ocean LLC property satisfies the privet hedge condition of the ZBA's determination. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals authorizes the Southampton Town Attorney's Office to sign a stipulation of settlement and stipulation of discontinuance in connection therewith, and any other necessary documents to effectuate same.
Second.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, On to decisions. I have a decision in the matter of the application of Ulla Tetzel. This is for where Helen and Bodo Krug von Nitta were the applicants for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-126-3 8.1. This application is an appeal brought by Helen and Bodo Krug von Nitta to revoke a building permit for entry gates on property located at 148A Red Creek Park Road, Hampton Bays. Here, the board must first address whether or not applicants' June 1st, 2022 appeal was made timely, as applicants seek to challenge building permit number P087245, dated and filed February 24th, 2022, over 3 months after it was issued and filed. With respect to the board's appeals procedure, New York State Town Law, Section 267A5B states the following in relevant part: filing of administrative decisions and time of appeal. B, an appeal shall be taken within 60 days after the filing of any order, requirement, decision, interpretation, or determination of the administrative official, by filing with such administrative official and with the Board of Appeals a notice of appeal specifying the grounds thereof and the relief sought. The administrative official from whom the appeal is taken shall forthwith transmit to the Board of Appeals all the papers constituting the record upon which the action appealed from was taken. As set forth above, the express terms of the statute provide for a 60-day time frame after the filing of a determination to make an appeal. In 2007, the Court of Appeals notes, as it relates to the identical provision in Village Law, Section 7-712-A, that the obvious purpose of the 60-day limitation is to provide repose for property owners and those who might buy or lend money on the property. They should be able to rely on the facts that the time of appeal from the issuance of a certificate of occupancy has run. This board is also aware, however, and has considered instances where the appeal period will not preclude an appeal unless an appellant knew or should have known of the issuance of the permit or determination to be appealed. Here, the building permit was issued and filed on February 24, 2022, but the applicants maintained that it was not released until May. As proof of this, the applicants submit emails, one dated March 6, 2022, from their attorney stating that she was told by the building department that the permit was issued but not yet handed over. Two, dated March 25, 2022, from the chief building inspector to the attorney indicating that the permit was issued but was not sent out yet to the property owner. And three, dated May 9, 2022, from their attorney who stated that she spoke with the chief building inspector that morning, who explained that he released the permit on the advice of counsel because it is not the town's purview to enforce private matters between neighbors, and as such, he could no longer hold the issuance of the permit. Also in the building department file is a letter dated the same day that the permit was issued from Robert Mannion, Building and Zoning Division, to Mr. Tezel, stating that the location of the proposed entry gates must be noted on the property survey. Subsequent to this, the building department received a revised survey in the file, updated April 28, 2022, and again on April 29, 2022, noting the addition of the gate and another update. Under this set of facts and circumstances, it is persuasive to this board that the correspondence and updating of the Tetzel survey on April 28, 2022, to specifically add the proposed gate, which would be required for the issuance of a building permit, suggests that notwithstanding the issuance of the permit on February 24, 2022, the applicants were not aware of its release until May 9, 2022, thus making their appeal timely. Since the board finds that the appeal was timely, it must now consider the merits of the challenge and review the building permit application de novo pursuant to New York State Town Law, Section 267B1. First, applicants assert that the permit was issued in error because the construction of the gates, which have yet to be erected, will purposefully block the part of the premises that has served as their driveway and access to their property for 90 years. While this board empathizes with the applicants and their neighbors, it is beyond the board's authority to intervene in a private dispute over easements. So long as the proposed gates are located wholly within the confines of the metes and bounds of the property and meet all setbacks, this board cannot consider whether or not they are in violation of a private easement agreement or right-of-way between neighbors. Second, applicants assert that the permit was issued in error because a wetlands permit should have been secured since the premises is within 500 feet of wetlands. This board does not have any proof that a wetlands permit is required for the proposed entry gates, and applicants have not preferred anything other than an allegation of such. Lastly, applicants maintain that the premises does not benefit from any certificates for the existing house, so that no additional permits should be issued. Notwithstanding this assertion, the copy of the building department file includes certificate of occupancy number 2341 dated October 8, 1962 for a dwelling on the premises, as well as certificate of compliance number 81518, that is A as in apple, 1518, dated October 2nd, 1981, for a bedroom and den addition to one-family dwelling. Therefore, this board finds that building permit number P087245 dated February 24, 2022 was properly issued and denies applicant's request to revoke the permit. Do we have a second?
Second?
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Before I go on to the next one, you want to do one?
Yeah.
My throat needs a break.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to paraphrase that any better.
That was a mouthful.
That
It was.
That was a
yes.
mouthful.
I have a decision in the matter of the application of Job's Lane LLC. This property is located on a non-conforming lot at 379 Job's Lane, Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-134-2-9. Applicant requests variance relief from the required rear yard setback of 100 feet to 43.2 feet in order to connect an existing detached garage to the existing residence, convert the area into a habitable space, and construct a second-story addition above the garage structure. The property is a flag lot fronting on Sam's Creek and constrained by wetlands. At the public hearing on this matter, it was noted the applicant had received Conservation Board approval and New York State DEC permit, and therefore, as of a right, the primary residence could be expanded to a rear yard setback of 50 feet. Mr. Anthony Giamalva, residing as an adjacent neighbor, initially appeared in opposition to the application regarding the potential blockage of his water view and problems associated with shrubs lining the flag lot. Counsel for applicant subsequently submitted information indicating that the parties reached a verbal agreement resolving their concerns. Another adjacent neighbor, Andrew Brode, also appeared in opposition to the application based on the increase in size and height associated with connecting the garage. It was noted that the applicant could add a second story to the garage without the necessity of rear yard setback relief, and that the height of the proposed addition was set at 22 feet. Council indicated applicant would be amenable to additional screening on the joint property line in accommodation to Mr. Brode's concerns. The Zoning Board of Appeals finds in this instance that applicant has established it is entitled to the requested variance relief and meets the five-part test set forth in Town Code and New York State law. In particular, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue, given that the property fronts on water and borders on wetlands with the principal structure already in existence. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a rear yard setback from the required 100 feet to 43.2 feet for a proposed two-story addition as shown on the survey prepared by Gary Benz, LS, of Surveying and Land Planning, revised 3/30/2022, and the building plan submitted by J. Pontiglieri, PSP, DPC, dated 7/29/2022, and incorporate herein. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to the conditions and such other permits as the applicant has heretofore acquired or may otherwise be necessary for final approval.
Second.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I next have a determination in the matter of the application of Michael and Bonnie Kelly. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 98211. This application is for property located at 930 Head Pond Road, Watermill. Applicants seek variances in connection with a detached garage and gym on a small, odd-shaped, non-conforming lot. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1. For a proposed detached garage with gym on a non-conforming lot. 1. Town Code 33011, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations. for an accessory distance from street setback, front yard, of 34.7 feet where 90 feet is required. And 2, Town Code 330-83C yards and Town Code 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, to allow the proposed detached garage with gym to be located within the required total side yard for the principal building, as shown on the survey prepared by Gary Benz, surveyor, last dated July 13, 2022, and the plans prepared by John Patrick Winberry, RA, dated July 6, 2022. This decision is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I next have a decision on the matter of the application of Production Holding LLC and Tyrone Tertunian. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900, 355, 2, 18.6, and 18.7 for subdivision. This application is for properties located at 57 and 61 Station Road, West Hampton. Applicants seek variances in connection with legalizing a two-story subdivision that occurred sometime in the 1970s. While this board does not condone the creation of lots without approval from the town, this application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants the following relief from Town Code 33011, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, to legalize a two-lot subdivision for Lot 18.6, a lot area of 20,083 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required, and a lot width of 113.97 feet where 150 feet is required. For Lot 18.7, a lot area of 21,958 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required, and a lot width of 120 feet where 150 feet is required, all for a two-lot subdivision as shown on the survey prepared by Floyd Carrington of Rayner Marks and Carrington Surveying, last dated March 15, 2022, received by this board January 23, 2023. This decision is conditioned upon compliance with any planning board conditions regarding the configuration of the driveways and parking on both lots.
Second.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I next have a decision on the matter of the application of Tyrone Tertunian. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900, 355, 2, 18.6. This application is for property located at 57 Station Road, West Hampton. Applicant seeks variances to legalize a one-story concrete building that replaces a pre-existing shed. While this board does not condone construction done without the benefit of a building permit, it does find that the structure is accessory to the main dwelling and that the request for variances passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code to legalize a one-story concrete building on a non-conforming lot. Town Code 33011, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory side yard setback of 3 feet and an accessory rear yard setback of 15.2 feet, where 20 feet is required. And Town Code 33084D, pyramid height, for an encroachment in the amount of 960 cubic feet. These variances are granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Rayner, Marks, and Carrington, last dated March 15, 2022, and the elevations prepared by Nicholas Anthony Vero, RA, last dated March 3, 2020, received by this board on February 2, 2023. This decision is conditioned upon the following prior to the issuance of any certificate of compliance. 1, the installation of vegetative screening between the portion of the concrete building and the property line to the maximum extent practicable and subject to final review and approval by the planning board, and its maintenance by the property owner of all successors in interest. 2, the removal of all portions of the existing driveway between the lots. And 3, the legalization of all fences and portions of fences on the premises.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next, I have a decision on the matter of the application of Tomas and Iwana Wojciechowski for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 923 to 25.3. This application is for property located at 6 Victoria Road, Hampton Bays. Applicants request variances in connection with a proposed pool, dwelling, and parking on a vacant undersized lot in a MTL/R40 zoning district. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, for a proposed swimming pool, 33054 Business District's Table of Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory side yard setback of 25.5 feet where 60 feet is required. And 2, for a proposed two-story dwelling, 1, 330-84, for a principal minimum side yard setback of 18.5 feet where 50 feet is required, and a principal total side yard setback of 42 feet where 100 feet is required. And 2, 330-94, schedule of off-street parking spaces requirements for residential uses to allow 3 additional parking spaces to be located on the required front yard. These variances are granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Jeffrey W. Hatterer of Twin Forks Land Surveying, last dated November 23, 2022, and the site plan, floor plans, and elevations last dated November 22, 2022, by Joseph Fischetti of RG Design. The granting of this relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including removal or compliance with the town code of all fences prior to the issuance of any certificates.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye. The last one I've got tonight is the application of Ivan Paskoff for Suffolk, property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-125-118. This application is for property located at 11 North Shore Road in Hampton Bays. The applicant seeks variances in connection with a first and second story addition as well as a second story deck. After modifying the application to ensure that the dwelling only has 2 stories, and after reducing the proposed pyramid encroachment from 2,463 cubic feet to approximately 632 cubic feet, the board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, Town Code 330-84D, pyramid height, for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 632.69 cubic feet, 477.42 cubic feet on the west side, and 155.27 existing cubic feet on the southeast side for a proposed 2-story addition. 2, Town Code 330-115 continuance for a 1, proposed front yard setback of 31.8 feet where 60 feet is required for a proposed 2nd-story deck off Shore Road. And 2, a principal minimum side yard setback of 17.4 feet where 20 feet is required, and a total principal side yard setback of 38.9 feet where 60 feet is required for a proposed 1st and 2nd story addition. These variances are granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Michael K. Wicks, last revised December 31st, 2022, and the plans and elevations prepared by Thomas D. Riley, dated September 6, 2022, and received by this board on November 17, 2022. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including addressing the building department comments from the write-up regarding fences, bedrooms in the basement, and the removal of existing sheds as noted on the site plan prepared by Thomas D. Riley.
Second.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Anybody else have any decisions?
That is it.
That is it. Okay. Do we have a motion to close?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.